Hey guys, welcome back for week 2 of the EVE-NT Championship here in the Plus Time Gaming channel. This is the Minor League Championship this week, and boy, what an action-packed week it's going to be. We have a whole bunch of teams ready to either try and redeem themselves from not very good last week, or just try and sustain the dominance that they showed. Let's have a quick rundown, in fact, of the standings as they currently are. So, at the top of our leaderboard, we have Templars with a massive 7 points out of a possible 8. They won the EVE-NT Cup, and during their 2 matches last week, they won 1 and then dominated the second for that bonus extra domination point for a total of 7. Nameless coming in second place at the moment, 6 points, still pretty respectable. That's the exact same win-loss record as Templars, but that domination victory there by the Templars team just putting them that 1 point ahead. Nameless, of course, rather a new team, but they did finish second in the EVE-NT Cup, which is not to be laughed at. Coming up into third place, you have the Charlatans, returning from last year. They got knocked out of the EVE-NT Major League and are fighting to try and get back in through the minor leagues this season. They are on points. In fourth place, also with 4 points, is UNOT, but Charlatans taking that third place position due to the number of points that they scored on a ship-to-ship basis. So when we have a tie, we look at the number of ships killed and lost on each team, and we use that to come out with the tiebreaker. In fifth is Clever Girls. Now, they're sitting in the relegation spot right now. Bottom 4 of the minor league will get knocked out completely and have to either go through the cup or just give up if they're so inclined. Clever Girls were a major league team last year, relegated, and they'll be looking to prove that they do have what it takes to get back into the major leagues. So I expect we'll see some pretty strong fighting from them this week. Only points coming in 6th, but they have only played 1 match. So they have 3 matches today. It's a huge amount of matches and the potential for 12 points if they were to dominate all of them. They could catapult themselves right up the league table into first potentially, or at least into the top 4. I do not expect them to do that, but we'll see. It'll be very exciting if they did. Coming up behind that is See Ya Kids, 2 matches played and unfortunately 2 losses. 1 to the Charlatans, 1 to Nameless. So again, another team looking to prove that they are here and they are going to do well. Well, remains to be seen, of course, but we hope that they do. And finally, at the very bottom slot is Diametrically Opposed, but again, they have only played 1 match, so there is still plenty of room for them to move around the league tables, move up and get into one of those 4 promotion positions. If you get to the top 4 of the league, you do get promoted to the Major League, where the prizes are much more numerous, and you're rewarded greatly for your dedication to the cause. Now, we do have a whole host of exciting matches coming up today, starting with a really interesting one. It's going to be between Diametrically Opposed and Only Points, and that is 2 of the sort of the bottom ranked teams at the moment. So both teams are going to be fighting to get that really crucial win. And I'm going to bring in Madden. Madden is joining me here in the studio today, and we're going to throw the bat up and we're going to take a quick look at them. Madden, why don't you just break down what Diametrically Opposed have brought for us here?
Sure. So Diametrically Opposed have brought some an interesting setup. You know, you've got the Thalia for Logi as the Frigg Logi, which is always a good choice. It's got a little self rep, it's got some maneuverability, but it has that range drawback. And then they've brought in the Dragoon and the Arbitrator, and the Arbitrator obviously very interesting. A lot of secondary capabilities around its disruption, probably going to be really applicable in this match. And then they've gone with more standard, Harbinger Dominix. I also, I think this is really interesting to point out. They started off and they banned the Scorpion Kyrian. That's a really early ban for a Scorpion, obviously well before you're falling into the standard battleship round, and they just really didn't want to face ECM. Obviously, Only Points did something similar as we'll get into, but it's just they went really pointed in their bans and just said we're going to bring the Arbitrator, we're going to bring some interesting DPS, and probably play a range game.
Yeah, it's very interesting that this season we're seeing a lot more of these Tech 2 logistic frigates being chosen. They're a lot more powerful than the Tech 1 logistics frigates, of course, which were the only frigates available last season. This season we have introduced these Tech 2 logistics frigates, and because of that we're seeing many of these E-War cruisers like the Arbitrator, like the Blackbird, starting to be picked. In this case, the Arbitrator here. Now, Madden, this Arbitrator that Diametrically Opposed have got, it's going up against the Megatron. Do you think that's going to be an important ship for the Diametrically Opposed team?
I mean, I absolutely think it's going to be an important ship for them. And I don't know if we just talking about the fit. So the Arbitrator is going to have 2 tracking disruptors, and then one guidance disruptor, along with you got your drones, you got your rapid light missiles. But talking directly to those disruptors, the Megathron is going to be significantly impacted by those. It's going to have a hell of a time actually hitting anything, and then just for fun, they're going to make the Prophecy's life a little bit harder with the guidance. So that's a huge ship in this match. Obviously, only Points knew about it before they actually went out and made their choices. So either they had a plan, they wanted to execute against it, or they think the arbitrator is not going to be an issue. Athalia is going to have a really tough time keeping our arbitrator up if it gets caught. But as long as that arbitrator can keep its range and distance, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare for Only Points.
Yeah, definitely. Now, speaking of Only Points, do you want to just run me down exactly what they've been banned as well, please?
Sure. So they've brought together here Rifter, Algos, Execure, along with the Prophecy Megathron. So, some classic ships, a lot of Galente, a little Mimitar, Rust to my heart. You can never go wrong with a Rifter. It's just a choice in all aspects of the game. Algos is fun, some good drone damage. Execure, which I think is the most picked ship in the entire tournament. Probably the best Logi you can find for its maneuverability, its self-rep capabilities, and just how well it works with armor. And that goes with the Prophecy and the Megathron, which, again, I think these are really standard choices. Looking at the list, Prophecy is right in the middle in terms of the most drafted. I think it's number 7, maybe. Megathron being number 9. So they basically went out and said, all right, what is everybody picking? And then they did that, with the exception of the Hyperion, which they chose to ban, I think because they were pretty sure Diametrically Opposed was going to choose it, which is probably right.
Yeah, the Hyperion, of course, was pretty much 100% pick or ban the last couple of seasons and in the EVNT Cup as well. It's an incredibly dominating ship in this format. It was nerfed a little bit post-Cup, pre-season, to bring it a little bit more in line. It was just a little bit too dominant. And in return, the Dominix was actually buffed. So, I mean, Mad, what do you think here? Ban the Hyperion, allow your opponents to pick the Dominix? Or are you thinking maybe now the banning meta might shift to more to ban the Dominix and let them pick the Hyperion? If you had to choose, which one would you prefer?
I'm probably still going to pick the Hyperion because of its bonuses. Just really powerful in terms of its repping capabilities. It's got good damage and just an overall strong ship. I'm looking at the fits right now, and I don't think there's by default a right or a wrong answer. They both have their own advantages and disadvantages, but I'm still probably going to go with the Hyperion just because I think with just so few ships in a small meta like this, where you kind of know exactly what you're going to go up against, it's really, really powerful and uniquely so. At the same time, I'd love to see what a good Dami pilot can do. They've got T2 plates. That's a nice advantage. They've got a T2 damage control. Certainly there's a good amount of tank over there. You get your drone damage amps. You get a lot of damage potential and a lot of damage output, plus the large micro jump drive to get right on top of someone and use your smart bomb. There's lots of good ways to make that ship extremely effective. Even though the Hyperion's neutered, I think it's a little bit better, but they're both really powerful and exciting to watch ships.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that makes them even more interesting, at least in my opinion, is both of them actually have a micro jump drive, which enables that dank 360 no scope from across the arena. If you're kiting around in your Megathron, for example, and all of a sudden that Dominix appears right on top of you, then that could be disastrous and great for the other team. But likewise, if you time your click with that micro jump drive, or you get bumped, crucially, if you get bumped and jump yourself right out of the arena, you will be exploded by the Edge of Glory. You will possibly get an invitation sent to you by our own Elise Randolph to have it, but you never really know. It's probably not good though. You could trade it for an invitation, but I would say you probably want those dope AF skins that you can win in the EVNT minor and major leagues instead. Now it is pretty much time to go to the arena, so I'll hand over to your commentators for this match, which is going to be our very own stats guru. I'm pretty sure some of the stuff he does with spreadsheets is illegal in all 50 states of America, Alexei Aksan, and of course our very own beast from the east, Jebby.
Yo, hello everyone, thanks for tuning in, friends. We are watching this glorious battle between Diametrically Opposed and Only Points, right? Alexei, can you please tell us what we are dealing with here? They warped in at like 50 kilometers, right?
Indeed, both teams have brought their battleships in right at range. Surprising given that Dominic's is very brawly. Got cruisers and battlecruisers distributed a little bit closer, and we're going to see a lot of action kick off around that Arbitrator, who's going to be trying to control the Megathron and stop it putting out the huge damage it can. We're going to see the match kicking off now and where the teams go.
Oh yeah, the Megatron's probably gonna wanna kite because he's the real Megatron obviously, and the Dominic's gonna wanna land on him. They're kiting into each other. It's gonna be really good.
Indeed, we see damage going straight onto that Arbitrator. It's bringing a lot of weapon disruption. It can control that Megathron's damage output. The Megathron burning in, mitigating the range disruption coming off that Arbitrator. The rules state you can only use unscripted disruption, so that Arbitrator is just going to be messing up everything the Megathron has.
Talia's getting primaried, but he's kind of really living good. He can like mitigate a lot of damage with his signature. And on the other side, the Rifter is getting primaried. He's also living really good under that Executor, so nothing's really happening. Most of the drones out are DPS, one set of medium drones of the maintenance drones, right? It's like...
Oh yeah, that Thalia is going to be a really tough nut to crack. It's got a really low sig, and its whole team up means it's going to have a ton of maintenance bots on it. Not as many as might be in another team though, because you've got the Dragoon and the Dominics wanting to use their drones for damage, but that Thalia does seem to be holding for now.
It's also a range thing. He can't like pull range of his bodies, right? He doesn't have the long ones as the Executor. The dudes on the only point side don't appear to be suffering any kind of DPS whatsoever, right? What's being primary there? And the diametrically opposed, they're shooting... Oh, they started shooting the Rifter? Okay then. No one knows what's going on there. Like, they're just kiting away from each other.
The teams appear to have clashed, that Arbitrator now being heavy tackled by that prophecy, and this could spell trouble for it. The Megathron, it's going to have reduced tracking, but that's not going to matter if the Arbitrator isn't moving. The Executor, though, of Pegika is taking a ton of damage, and the rep bots of the Only Points team are going to be struggling to hold it up if that's all the damage the Dominics can put out.
Yep, that's a old-fashioned four-way DPS split between the Arbitrator, Thalia, Dragoon, and the Executor, boys. So, it's like, we'll see who dies first. The Executor isn't looking really healthy. He's hitting 50% armor. But the Dominic's gonna smart bomb off those drones, and it's gonna be like, oh, that's gonna be our first blood, probably. We'll see.
Indeed, the brutal nature of this Dominic's as a brawler, he is neuting out that Executor. Even with the ancillary rep, he needs cap to rep, and he's got none of it right now as he passes into Hull. That Executor struggling to hold on and breaking now.
First blood, there he goes. Witness. -1 Executor for the Only Points dudes.
Indeed, and with the Exec gone, that Algos is not going to last very long. High Sig being a destroyer and not much tank, he is going to get torn apart by the DPS coming out of diametrically opposed.
Oh, they're tanking the Dragoon with the Thalia. It's hilarious, lol.
Now, this is far from shored up for the diametrically opposed. They have loads of chunks of armor missing from key ships on their team. They don't have tackle in their top end necessarily that can chase stuff down, and that Megathron is surprisingly kitey. But the Rifter now, the Rifter is their target, trying to clear that off the field. If they can get that down, they can pretty much control range for the rest of this match.
Yeah, a bunch of small drones are flying towards that Rifter. He's hitting structure, and he's like moving at 2.7, 2.9. He's cooking out his prop mod, but like, it's like kind of kiting off and living. It's a miracle. Nope, dead. Witness. And now the Megatron is getting primary. They're ignoring the prophecy.
Indeed, the Megatron a far bigger threat for how much EHP it has right now. The prophecy is so tanky, but the Mega has the big gun damage. The Arbitrator is surprisingly still suffering. That Mega, so much of diametrically opposed damage, and it hasn't been touched. It's still been slamming into that Arbitrator with those rail guns, but it is passing into Hull. Galente ship, it's got a lot of hull, but ultimately with no major way of regaining health.
Oh, the Thalia is dancing on 0 HP. They're connecting good DPS. Bye-bye, Thalia. Track this, lol. So he was really good in this match. Miracle worker. Soon's gonna be the Megatron. He is spinning his local tank, boys. Nope. There he goes. Only prophecy left.
If they'd managed to hold on to that Megathron, they could have done so much more with that match. Taking that Thalia down unlocks the ability to kill the Arbitrator, kill the Dragoon. As we're seeing now, even the Prophecy is able to tear that Dragoon apart without the reps. But ultimately, this Prophecy, it's really tanky, but can it out-tank what's going to be a cruiser, battle cruiser, and battleship remaining?
Here's Dragoon. The Prophecy is manhandling them. First he dumpster the Thalia, then the Dragoon. Now let's see what he does next. He's gonna start shooting the Harbinger.
That Arbitrator still holding up. Prophecy doesn't care about it because that weapon disruption was only really affecting the Megathron. He's going for the Harbinger, which is quite tanky. It is, of course, the sister ship to the Prophecy in the Amarr line, but it's the Prophecy is the one with the tank, and the Prophecy is holding out incredibly well against diametrically opposed assault right now.
Yeah, look at that brick. He's being neutered and shot and beamed. Good luck killing that thing with TM thermal, Lil. He's slowly dying.
Indeed, he's got no reps anymore. That Executor was a huge part of keeping the team alive. Even if he just had the Megathron, that would have been providing rep bots, but he is all on his own now. We've all been there. You just cannot break that many ships when you're on your own, and he is going into Hull now. He is not going to stand up too much longer with that Dominic's right on top of him.
There he goes. There is he. 10% strat. There he is. Both teams writing GF in local. It was a glorious battle. It wasn't a decisive victory, domination victory, but still, the diametrically opposed won, and GG.
Hey guys, diametrically opposed, taking that one there over only points, of course there, averting that domination loss by killing that Thalia first, and then somehow Mephi 100 in the Prophecy just casually soloing the Dragoon, which instead of kiting away decided just to stay and die. Bold strategy. It didn't. I guess it did work out for them because they won, but they did not get that domination point, so they get 3 points instead of the potential 4. If only they'd been a little bit more careful. I mean, you never know, later on in the season, that 1 point could come back to haunt them. We've seen it before, where teams at the end of the season were in, for example, 5th place, and then with a domination victory over a 2nd place team, jumped right up into 2nd place in one match. It's all to play for. You really have to push for those extra domination points. In fact, in an Alliance tournament, if you're losing, you can just fly out the boundary, you can just give up and die, it doesn't make a difference. It is just win or loss. But here in this league, every single ship counts, every single point counts. If you get that domination loss or win, that is good or bad, depending if you're losing or winning. And if you get to the point where you cannot win at all, but you still got maybe 3 ships alive, it is worth it to just kite around and just try not die until the time. And that way you take those extra points for the point difference later on in the season. Absolutely crucial, potentially later on. Now, Jebby, how did that match go for only points there? What did they do wrong, apart from getting their Megathron tackled by a Dominic's?
They went for the overcommit on the Thalia from the beginning, right? That's where it I don't know. And on the opposite side, it was they couldn't simply deal with being tackled and neuted out and dumpstered. After the Executor broke, and the Executor broke with the heavy newts, right? So the Executor only points got heavy neuted by the Dominics and died there, and then it was just a matter of picking them off one by one, right? Chewing through the HP, because nothing else can keep them alive normally, right? The Prophecy was hero flying around and managed to... he and the Megatron managed to kill the Thalia in the end, which prevented the domination victory, and also dumpstered the Dragoon, which was unexpected and really nice for the Prophecy, but in the end it wasn't enough, right? It was too late.
Yeah, Prophecy pilot going back to his team to tell the rest of them to, get good. Why is he carrying the rest of the team as they're all dying around him? But at the end of the day, it wasn't enough. One Prophecy can't beat 5 people, and they did drop that point. Madden that Arbitrage looked like it was super effective, that Megathron. it looked like they were trying to hit that Talia, just couldn't apply any damage. Is that basically what we expect from something like the Arbitrator, especially with all those track disruptors on one ship like the Megathron? It doesn't have to split it over a Prophecy, over a Brutix and a Megathron. You can go all of it straight onto the Mega. Is that what really threw the game for only points?
Yeah, I mean, I think that plus the Dami was really the key factors. I mean, the practical truth is a Megathron with big guns is going to do really poorly against a frigate like a Thalia or even a standard destroyer. So you add an Arbitrator to the mix, and that Megathron is just going to be sitting there going, man, I don't do a lot of stuff, and is bored, and then it is dead, which is basically what happened. But it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the Hyperion and Dominic's question. Well, here, Dominic's made the difference. The fact that it had those newts was really the game changer. So I think the Dominic's is showcasing itself as something to watch out for, and potentially the next big battleship that you should be banning, not just the standard Hyperion ban.
Yeah, I'm sure Starfleet Commander will be jumping for joy at that fact. He does love to get the Dominic's, even when it's absolute garbage like it was last season. He would pick it anyway, so he will be very, very pleased. Now, let's move on to have a look forward to our next match. So our next match is going to be between returning from relegation from the Major Leagues, Team Clever Girls, versus upstart newcomers Templars, of course doing very well in the Alliance Tournament and the EVNT Cup, and now in our EVNT Minor League as well. So I mean, this match could it's a bit of a grudge match here. I think Clever Girls really want to show that they've still got it and they want to do well. Last week, of course, Taston, the captain, just casually flew out the boundary in his Typhoon. They were doing well, potentially even winning, when he just decided that he liked to be a little bit further away and got exploded by the arena and losing his team the game. Now let's just throw the bans up here, and I'm going to bring Madden in once again. And Madden, if you just break down the Clever Girls picks and bans here.
Sure. So Clever Girls has made some standard choices. They brought out a Griffin to bring in a little bit of that ECM love. They got a Dragoon, an Augur for your standard Logi, and then the Brutix Hyperion combo. Now here you've got literally the opposite choice. They banned the Dami and they chose the Hyperion. So we'll see how good that Hyperion is, and we'll see that it's on the other side as close to a mirror match as possible. So I'm very excited to see what Templars does with it versus our last match where we saw what the Dami could do to something like that. But here there's no they don't have the same neuting capabilities from Clever Girls. So that hopefully their ECM is either going to be effective or they're going to be kind of possibly on the back foot a little bit. But definitely Clever Girls bringing something relatively standard. They banned the Ferox, they banned the Scorpion, don't want to see the Scorpion ECM, it's too powerful. And they said the Dami is scary, we saw what happens, but we like Hyperions, basically.
Yeah, one of the cool things to notice here is the Griffin actually has racial ECM instead of rainbow jams. Sorry, it does have rainbow jams instead of multispectral ECM. And Templars have responded to that by picking a biracial comp here using only Gallente and only Amarr. So the Amarr jammer is going to go straight on that Prophecy, of course. And then you got one Gallente jammer to stick somewhere, probably the Executor, maybe the Atron if your stuff's getting tackled and you don't want it to be. But other than that, you've got two jams that are just going to be kind of useless. So a pretty good counter pick here by Templars to try and limit the damage that Griffin can potentially cause. Now, Madden, what else have Templars brought for us?
Yeah, so Templars has brought, as we saw in the last match, with the exception of the Rifter, they got an Atron, Algos, Executor, Prophecy, Megathron. They love Gallente, so they got rid of the Rifter. Personally, I think that's a bad choice. That kind of hurts my feelings. But otherwise, they banned the Blackbird, they banned the Scythe, they banned the Harbinger. It's interesting you talk about the multi-specs. I think the Scorpion is the only ship that actually has multi-specs in the current meta for the ship pick. So that, basically these teams said, all right, so we don't like the big bad ECM. No one likes a Blackbird in something like this because every once in a while the die roll will say everything is jammed. Haha, suckers. But the Atron, the Algos, some good damage capabilities there. Executor, obviously strong Logi. We saw the last match, Prophecy, while it can't take out 5 people, it can take out 2. So by itself, that's a scary ship. And the Megathron, without any of the Arbitrator type effects, if that Griffin doesn't get kind of lucky and do some real jamming capabilities here, that it almost becomes a waste, and that Megathron can just burn through something like an Augur without too much trouble. Now, tackle is going to be a big factor. How effective is that Atron at grabbing something and holding it down? Obviously, a Brutix, a Hyperion, not notorious for their speed or anything, but still, the Megathron's really a lot more effective when it's going after something tackled versus just chasing something around the field the entire match.
Yeah, I mean, that Atron is going to be a pretty important ship on this field, I think, for Tempest. It is a little AB ship, Scram Web, so it can get right in on that Hyperion or that Brutix. And it is just such a small sig that even the Hyperion with its grappler finds it very difficult to hit. So even just a couple of rep drones will probably keep it alive versus the Hyperion damage, which is insane. So if he does get on top of that Hyperion, then the Hyperion's going nowhere. That leaves the Megathron to just fly around at range, just blinking away with these little bits of damage and slowly whittling stuff down. If they do want to kill that Atron, they're going to have to either bring the Dragoon in or perhaps put that Brutix at range and try and sort of hit it with the railguns on that Brutix. Meanwhile, of course, that Megatron and the drones from the Prophecy are just going to be chewing away at whatever they happen to be primarying. So this game is all to lose for Tempest, I think. It's all about positioning and individual piloting. If the Tempest pilots can just outfly the Clever Girls pilots, and that means the tackle, as well as the bigger stuff not being tackled, maybe that Prophecy dives in at the last minute to try and save the Megatron. That's a good sacrifice, because that Prophecy is just an absolute brick once it gets on something. You have to kill it, otherwise whatever it is not getting freed, and that takes a long, long time. And all that time, the Megatron is just kiting away, happy as Larry, applying his long-range railgun damage.
I'd like to ask, who's
about
Larry?
Piloting. Oh, Larry is a very happy gentleman when the Megatron kites away. It's a good question, well presented, and that is the answer. Now, we do have... This is quite a sort of traditional comp. We've seen it a lot before. Augurer and Executor on both sides. It's very armor heavy. I mean, Mad, what do you think? Is it going to be all about piloting? Or do you think this is going to be just a case of one team is already won?
No, I definitely think this is all about piloting. There's no obvious winners in this match. You know, that you can question whether or not the Griffin's going to be as useful as you hope for. But that Atron, you know, if that Atron gets jammed or if the Atron just gets popped out the field, you know, there's no tackle on either side. It's completely about positioning, who's where. You know, as we saw in the last match, the Prophecy just magically catches a Thalia and a Dragoon because, you know, the Prophecy did a great job. And, you know, piloting is absolutely gigantically important here. The Augurer and the Executor, you know, both have their roles to play, and they have to make sure that they don't walk into a Hyperion and a Brutix or a Megathron, because one way or another, that those ships could easily take them down. So there's definitely a huge amount of positioning that's going to come into play here, ignoring the fact that they could just accidentally walk their way out of the arena and say, I've had enough of this limitation on my space. Space is infinite, and I want to enjoy that. You never know.
Yeah, and that Griffin, of course, as well, very, very fragile. Not known for being a tanky ship is the Griffin. Of course, so it's going to be flying around, trying to make sure it's in ECM optimal, which is also conveniently going to be Megatron optimal. So if he messes up and the Megatron happens to catch him with either low transversal or just not moving fast enough, then all it could take is one solid volley from that Megatron and poof, bye-bye Griffin. You have been removed from the field. It will just simply be a one-click delete if that Megatron gets a good solid shot on it. Now, before we go to the arena, which we'll be doing in about a minute or two, I just want to take a moment and go through the people who are here in the studio today with me. It is not just me. I am not just solo hosting this entire thing by myself. I can do that. The reason that they put me on camera is because I have no other discernible talents. I can't do anything technical or anything involving the rules and organization, so they just plank me here instead. To do the organization, we have people like Mr. Elise Randolph, our tournament director here at Plus 10 Gaming. He organizes everything. He organizes the teams. He herds them into containers and puts them into their respective leagues. And he is the man sitting right now with the tools. He is moving and doing all the banning. He has a button. He tells me that he can just blow everybody up if he so chooses. He was saying how you could even shrink the arena size down to 0 kilometers if he just, you know, felt like he was bored in the middle of a match one day and just blew everybody up. Alongside him, we have Terendian Biohazard. He is the man in my ear. He is the streamer that's hosting everything. All the camera angles and camera work that you see is him. If I suddenly just gaze off into the distance and look like I'm having a stroke, it's because he's talking in my ear and I'm trying to listen to him. We have the man with the stats. That's Alexei Aksan. Every time I say his name, I almost want to say Alexei Askan, thanks to Elise now. We are joined by, of course, the wonderful Jebby, who's joining us once again as a commentator. His colourful tones just lighting up our airwaves, and it is just delightful. Madden Kanrendi? Is that how you say your name, Madden? Madden Kanrendi?
I go with Madden Kenrende. I actually don't know if there's a right way to pronounce it. Madden Kenrende sounds good.
Yeah, he joins us as well as an analyst and a commentator, along with some newcomers here on the stream with us. We have Sullen Decimus, who will be joining us a little bit later on, do some commentating and some analysts. And we have Discreed Error from the Plus 10 Gaming sort of, guru team. And we have Leanne, who is Alexi's statistician helper, I guess would be the best way to say it at the moment. But it is time to go to the match, and your commentators for this match are going to be Jebby and Alexi.
Yo, hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is going to be the glorious battle between Clever Girls and Templis. I'm JB, joined by Alexi, Aksan. The Clever Girls dudes warped at 0. Alexi, would you please tell us how the Templis dudes did?
Well, Templars have all come in at 50. They know they need to kite, and they know that Hyperion is going to be terrifying if it gets on top of them. Whereas Clever Girls just want to get in there, get tackle, and as the match kicks off, we're going to see that Hyperion burn straight towards the Templars team.
The Templars dudes are trying to kite perpendicularly with their ships, and the Clever Girls are approaching straight in a straight line into them. I see a bunch of Predator tracking disruptor drones being deployed.
And we see the first thing happened, those jams thrown straight at the Megathron. They want to control that damage. Prophecy as well, but it's not help. That Griffin has just been shot straight through into Hull. If they get any more damage on this, it's going to go down. But those jams might just have caught. He's still there. He's got a bit of armor left. Oh goodness, he's been caught.
He resurrected him with the Auguror. It's a miracle. The Griffin lived. He hit 60% strike. That was their best bet. The longer the Griffin lives, the more difficult it is for the Templis dudes.
Indeed, Tyrion Hecky and his swarm of helpers keep that Griffin alive now, and you see it's being followed by those bots that's going to try and help it against sudden shocks of damage as the Clever Girls team try and clear that Atron. Difficult ship to clear. It's dual propped. If it's on the AB, that's a tiny sig they've got to hit.
Dudes are killing off drones with drones. It's a greater drone war going on there. We started off with like 40 of those things, now we have half as many. The Atron is suffering dearly. The Griffin is spared from suffering. The Dragoon on the other side is kind of getting shot. Who knows who will be the first blood there? It's a nail biter.
That Atron looks like it might well be suffering. He was trying to screen out the Hyperion. He is neutered, he is nosed, he is webbed, he is grappled and jammed just to keep that Hyperion moving again, because that Hyperion is all of the damage on that Clever Girls team.
Spartan's picking up speed in his Megatron. He's clicking the old keep at range on the whatever he is, the Hyperion. Man, that's like they'll break the Dragoon through the Auguror. We'll see.
We're going to see damage now moving onto that Execuro because the Hyperion of Taston has just managed to get a grapple on Sefoy.
Soft switch on the Griffin with the warrior drones. Oh man. Oh, he has him pre-locked. He's healthy.
That Dragoon just about holding in there. Here we see the damage. The Execuro beginning to take damage. The Hyperion is right on top of him with a grapple. We see secondary tackle coming onto it now with that web. The Execuro is going to struggle, but Griffin's gone down, finally shot through its armor, and that's going to be a big hit to the Clever Girls team. That's so much of their control bar has just died.
Oh, vaporized. He lived really long. He was a good piloting Griffin right there. And now the Executor of the Templis dudes is suffering greatly. He's like grappled and the Hyperion has him. Oh man, he's not looking really good.
If they can make this trade, it might well work for them, but their Dragoon is suffering again. He's going to be taking the full brunt of the Templars team now. No mitigation coming. But they get the Execura. They get the Execura. That's Logi down for Templars. This is still a good position for Clever Girls.
Insane trade. The Griffin for a Executor, right? That's like really good for the Templars.
It's beautiful, but they might be losing their Dragoon as well. As he's Catatonic Dawn, he's trying to burn away. He is getting reps, but they are not enough. He's scraping bits of armor back onto his ship as they're being melted off by the railguns on that Megathron.
Do you see that? He's catching him with the Auguror, kind of. Atron is like baiting. Hey, hard switch to the Algos. Let's see what he does.
That's going to be solid. That Algos is just going to melt without logistics behind it. It's got good enough sig that with any sort of application, it's going to be that Brutix will easily apply to it, and there it is. That is gone.
Right, but witnessed. He did. The Agro is dying. He went from 100% armor to 40% armor in 1 second.
That Megathron has so much damage if he gets in and applies it. He's at range though, which means he's got the tracking to hit that Augur. Atron down. He can mitigate so much damage, but that only means things if he's regaining health, and he was not without his Executor on field.
The Agro is kind of holding on to dear life there by his local reps, and
the key point now is going to be if they can get that Megathron tackled before they lose the Augur. Once they lose the Augur, they're still in a fairly strong position, but they stand to lose the Dragoon quite quickly as well, and they need to get into close range if they're going to win this. That Hyperion has more damage than the Megathron, it's got more tank, but it's only got it at close range. It needs to get on top of that Megathron, and it's being screened out at the moment.
Oh yeah, the Dragoon of Catatonic is holding him down. He's like, you're not going anywhere, lol.
And surprisingly, they are going for the Prophecy first. The Megathron, we saw in the last match, going for the Megathron first because it's got less HP, but going for the Prophecy reduces the HP on that Megathron and potentially will give them the advantage in getting through this at the end. The Brutix brings links as well, but those are going to be skirmish links. Those are going to help the Hyperion move faster and get on top of targets. Whereas the Prophecy, it's just got those tank links, and those are going to be a huge loss to the Megathron.
Yeah, like the Prophecy has 700 million bajillion gorillion HP, but still they're killing that thing kind of slowly, and he's dying. He's gonna hit some kind of structure there. The Dragoon took some damage. Oh man, it's not looking really good for the... Oh, there he goes. The Megatron untackled himself. Spartan did.
The Prophecy is going to go down though, and that Megatron does have the DPS to finish this if he can just keep kiting. He's still got 4 minutes, he can clear a lot of things out, but he has lost his Prophecy, he's lost his friend, and Templars are looking in a really shaky position here. After week 1, they were at the top of the table. Clever Girls, their standard thing for any of these tournaments, they lost their first match. This is going to be a great comeback for them if they can make it, but they have got to find this Megatron and catch him, pin him down.
Next level upsets, boys. The underdogs are winning, friends. They're like, oh man, Temple is so strong. Strong this. They will test their names, yes. So it was a glorious battle from the Clever Girls. And now Spartan is alone there. He is kiting off and trying to shoot the Agoror, but it's not looking really good to him. Oh, the Brutix is going in a straight line into him. He literally clicked approach. I mean, he can please double click a bit, but I don't know. The Hyperion's got it, he's cutting his transversal.
That Hyperion probably doesn't care at all if that Megatron hits him with full force right now. That Hyperion is just going to be trying to maneuver to get right on top of the Mega. He knows, especially if that Augur is still alive, he's got more than enough tank to get in and do what he needs to do. But these ships, you see the speeds here. The Hyperion is just slower than that Megatron right now. They're going to be using every bit of heat they can to try and move, try and get on top of that fleeing battleship. But they don't need to. They're getting enough damage as it is.
The Megatron is in 40% armor. The repair drones are catching the Brutix. There's no conceivable dying for the Brutix. He's bait tanking the Brutix, right? So it's just a matter of the points, right?
Not entirely. That Megatron has a ton of DPS. Augur can rep a lot, but it's got some of the least reps of any of these logistics cruisers. If that Megatron got full antimatter DPS onto that Brutix, he might be in danger, but the Megatron's in more. His ancillary rep keeping him alive for now. Lots of HP coming back from it, but we see he's bleeding into hull, and there is a web on him now. That's got to be the end.
Yeah, that was like kind of really close to the edge there, but GG, boys. They got the hard tackle on him. He's not gonna be long in the world of the living, friends. Oh man, he's not looking good.
No, but still chunks of armor coming back. That ancillary being heated for everything that it can give. As we see last Spartan right on the edge of the arena there, he just ran out of space to flee into. And Clever Girls take the win. They are back to the form that we have seen them achieve in previous seasons, knocking Templis off the top spot. And with that, we will hand it back to the studio.
Hey guys, welcome back there. That is Clever Girls showing that they do still have it, taking a very well-deserved win over Templars there in an absolutely incredible match there. That one just could have gone either way for such a long time. Templars, of course, basically undefeated in the Cup, undefeated so far in the minor league, and now taken down by Clever Girls, giving them a very well-deserved win, and Templars getting a little bit more assailable than they did previously. So that's a pretty solid match there. Now, one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about that match to, and I want to bring Mr. Sullen Decimus in on this, is the Clever Girls team had that Griffin. Now, the Griffin, of course, is a utility ship, and it just basically allows the Clever Girls team to kind of mitigate a lot of the damage and the tackle coming in from the Templars team. And the question I put to you, Sullen, is, in a matchup between a kiting team and a brawling team, the longer the match goes on, I would say the more likely it is to swing to the brawling team, as it is harder to keep kiting, especially when you've got a ship like a Hyperion just chasing you around. Is that something you would maybe agree with?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that, especially because of the fact the longer that you go on, the more that those drones are going to be able to catch up to your Griffin, and he's going to be basically on the run the entire time that the match is going on. So, I mean, the longer the match goes on, the harder time he's going to have to make sure that he stays within the bounds of the arena and also keeps away from all the drones and light ships that are going to be going at him.
Yeah, so you say Templars perhaps then, this was probably a match they're going into, they wanted to get this match over and done with quicker. They wanted to probably remove that Griffin, remove that Dragoon, start working on that Augurer, and at that point, with that Atron still on field to tackle that Hyperion, they were pretty much good to go. As soon as that Atron was just removed by the Clever Girls team, the Hyperion and the Brutix were just free reign to burn around and start catching things, and that was a pretty crucial point there as well. And what do you think, Templars maybe done something a little bit different, or was that just flat out execution there by the Clever Girls team?
I think it was just a really good execution. I was looking at the match beforehand, and I was looking at that Griffin and the Atron, and I could just kind of tell that those two ships right there were going to be probably what decided the match. I mean, basically, if you brought down the Griffin first and basically still had the Atron running around, you were going to have trouble for one side, and if the other side was able to take down the Atron first and the Griffin was running around, I mean, those are kind of your two ships that are going to really control a lot of the match, despite the fact they're being frigates, but they can do a lot of change on the map depending on what they can actually do if they're not caught in the first minute or so.
Yeah, definitely. They're both basically just control ships. The Atron providing that solid AB tackle is just very hard to remove once it's on, and the Griffin, of course, with its long-range jams. It looked like Templars did try and volley that Griffin off the field at the very start, getting him into about 40% armor before the reps started to land, and perhaps maybe a jam landed on the Megatron, saving the Griffin. And I'm willing to bet that the Griffin pilot had to be peeled off his seat after that match, because his arse must have been absolutely puckered from that initial start there. That was one hell of a start for him.
Yeah, I was actually looking at that going, wondering how long he was going to last, because I know if I was on the other side and I saw a Griffin there, I would have been like, oh yeah, everybody let's see if we can nuke this thing in the first 10 seconds, because that would have made a big difference right from the get-go.
Yeah, the good thing as well with the Griffin compared to, for example, the Blackbird or the Scorpion is the speed that you can get your jams on someone. Of course, the Griffin locks things a lot faster than the Blackbird. In fact, if everyone does have a Blackbird, you can get your jams on that Blackbird before he can even lock you, which is a very, very crucial sort of aspect that people sometimes don't consider. It's just how fast certain ships can lock other ships. We saw that a lot in the Alliance tournament with large ships getting immediately jammed out by things like Griffins or Kitsunes before they even had a chance to respond. But yeah, a fantastic match overall, and it is definitely time to look forward to our next match, which, if I could find the bands, here we go, is going to be between Nameless and the Charlatans. The Charlatans are another returning team from the Major Leagues last season. They got knocked down into the minor leagues where they are currently. They're doing all right. I think they are third or fourth from memory. I can't remember. I think they're actually, in fact, tell you what, I'm not going to guess. I'm going to find my sheet that tells me these things that Elise Randolph so kindly put together for me, and then I immediately forgot. So, right, so here we go. Charlatans are in third place with 4 points right now, and they're going up against Nameless, who are currently in second place with 6 points. So a win here would allow the Charlatans to jump up above Nameless in the rankings, where they land at the end of the day. Of course, we don't know yet. There are still many, many matches to go. But let's just take a look at the bands here. Now, Sullen Decimus, what do you think of what Nameless have picked and banned?
Well, I mean, going right from the get-go, they've got two interesting bands. They got an Apocalypse band and a Maelstrom band. So the Apocalypse, it looks like they're trying to remove super heavy, at least one of the super heavy DPS ships. And then with the Maelstrom, the big thing with that Maelstrom is that it's got a massive alpha, and especially if you look at the ships they got the Exequer, the Algos, the Tormentor. You know, those three ships right there. If a Maelstrom was on the other side, all it takes is one lucky web, and a Maelstrom's just going to insta-blat those things off the field. It's just got so much alpha, so you can kind of see why they would go for that ban. The Blackbird is just kind of an obvious pick we're seeing pretty common today. Everyone's picking at least one of the jamming ships just to eliminate one option. Interesting choice, though, with the fact they would ban the Blackbird, because they have some pretty fast ships. So it looks like you would have thought they would have well, I guess that makes sense though, because if they have a Griffin on the other side, they'll be able to catch it probably. Maybe with the Tormentor or the Algos, will be able to get his drones on them.
Yeah, it is very interesting that most teams tend to either pick ECM or ban ECM or even both. In fact, I'm sure Alexei can pull up some graphs at some point, but I would gather that if you just lump all ECM ships into one class, that they are picked and banned an incredibly high percentage, probably as high as the Hyperion, I would go as far as to say. But, you know, that is something for our statsman to perhaps validate for us later on.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things that they definitely are not short on their own set of dickery going on, because that last one down at the bottom, that Scorpion, that one is definitely going to probably cause some troubles for the other side, because it doesn't look like the Charlatans have an answer to that, but I know we haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, well, in fact, both the Charlatans and Nameless here have picked up the two battle cruisers that happen to carry info links. Harbinger to give extra strength probably to that Scorpion, and the Kane to give extra resistance to the rest of his friendly team. The Nameless team a little bit lacking in DPS compared to the Charlatans, picking up that Frigate Logi, allowing them just quite a high damage setup here. Looks like Talwar, Caracal, Hurricane, Rope is a huge amount of damage. And I would go as far to say if they catch, for example, the Scorpion or the Harbinger, not particularly tanky ships, they might be able to just burst through the reps and just ignore the Executor. And what do you think they're selling?
Yeah, no, that definitely is true, because, I mean, one thing that'll be interesting is they definitely have a lot of DPS on the other side, so one of the potential that you'll see sometimes with these teams, they'll spread the DPS amongst a whole bunch of ships, make the Exequer have to spread out his reps just to keep everyone alive, and then just at the last moment when you think everything is good, that you just refocus all the DPS on one ship, and Exequer just can't react fast enough to keep him alive.
Yeah, and that Caracal there is going to be giving a little bit of a harassment to the small ships like the Tormentor, so he's going to have to probably stick at range. One of the interesting things to note is that Tormentor does have a paint. I'm not sure that's really bringing anything to this comp here. Perhaps maybe it is helping the Scorpion with his cruise missiles apply, but I'm pretty sure even with a Tormentor painting a Scalpel, cruise missiles from a Scorpion are just not going to apply in any way. So that Scalpel is going to have to be killed either by the Harbinger, which is still going to struggle, or just that Algos and Tormentor alone. So that is not a good place perhaps for Nameless to be. They're going to really struggle to kill that Scalpel. But then again, can they just break through the reps as well? I mean, this is one of those matches where it could go either way. It all comes down to target calling and what you're going to do. I mean, Sullen, let's say you're FCing the Nameless team here, what's your game plan? Where are you going to warp in and what are you going to do?
Well, I mean, looking at the setup that the other side has, that Scalpel's probably going to... honestly, that Scalpel is going to probably be something you're going to see if you can blap right from the get-go, because that'll be a big change. The Talwar is also going to be pretty fast DPS that can keep up with the Tormentor. But like you said, the Caracal is probably going to be one of the biggest problems for him because of the fact it can apply very good damage to all the ships on the field, and it's fast enough that it can outkite a lot of... I mean, the Harbinger is not going to be able to really keep up with it. Scorpion might be able to jam it occasionally, but even then, once he gets out of that jam, if he can't perma-jam him, it's not going to take much for him to really apply damage to the other side. So the Scalpel, though, is going to be kind of one of your first things and easy to eliminate. Talwar is going to be probably dangerous to keep up with him, but the Caracal is the main one that I'm looking at going, I don't know how they're going to deal with that. I hope they have a good FC to kind of focus how they're going to be able to handle it.
So it's time to find out which of these FCs is going to be the one to F the C correctly and find out which of these teams is going to come out on top. So we're going to hand over to the arena, and your commentators for this match are going to be Alexei and Sullen Decimus.
Hello and welcome to this third match of week 2 of the minor leagues, and we are seeing Nameless square off against a very piratey team in the Charlatans. I'm joined here by Sullen, who's going to talk us through the teams quickly before they kick off.
Yeah, I'll go through really. It looks like on Nameless we got a Tormentor, Algos, Exequer, Harbinger, and a Scorpion. And for the Charlatans we got a Scalpal, Caracal, Hurricane, and Roke. And we're about to kick off in 3 seconds.
Been brought in right on the arena beacon, and we see the match kicking off. Bursts are going out, and we can see that Roke probably burn in to try and get his close range damage onto the Nameless team.
Yeah, as we can see, they're pretty much burning straight out. Nope, they're changing around. They're kind of looks like they kind of changed their mind what they were going to do there. They were burning straight at him. Meanwhile, the Nameless is kind of keeping their range, kind of orbiting around the center point, keeping their range to see how they want to handle what the other team's got.
We see that Tormentor is burning way out. He's not going to be tackled at all. He is just going to be used for that target painter, judging by his positioning right now. The Algos, though, of Nameless taking so much damage. If that's the Rogue projecting with Null, it's going to keep on coming, and that Algos is beginning to struggle.
Yeah, it looks like the Rogue, the Hurricane, and the Caracal are all jammed up right now, so that is a lot of damage that is being gated from the field right now. It looks like Nameless is basically keeping things in check and making sure that ain't nothing getting alphaed off in this match.
But the Talwar, we see Talwar of Andy Von Aderon is being taken through into Hull. Scalpel reps just not enough to keep it up.
There he goes.
And he is down. First blood for the match.
And there goes the Talwar down for the Charlatans. Not the worst thing they could have lost, but still, it's definitely some fast tackle that they could have, or some fast DPS they could have had to apply to the Nameless there. Oh, and it looks like the Harbinger is taking quite a bit of damage, though, right now. He is webbed, but he's catching reps.
Indeed, we see that Rogue right on top of him. Grappler, blasters, taking chunks out of that armor. Huge swarm of rep bots has made it to the Harbinger, though, which was protecting the Algos. Now it's going to be trying to keep that Harbinger up, but the damage has been done, and that Harbinger is in very low armor.
Yeah, he's going to have a really hard time. He's way too close to that Rogue right now. It's just taking way too much damage out of him.
It looks like there must have been a jam cycle come off on that Rogue, though, because Harbinger slipped tackle and he is burning away.
Yeah, you want to talk about speeding out of there.
That's going to be a hot prop mob, which is going to potentially cost him later on, because that Rogue will try to get back on him and will still be able to tackle him. But the damage hasn't stopped. Harbinger is free, but he is in Hull. He is down.
Yeah, there he goes, yeah. So it looks like the Rogue and the Hurricane now are jammed up. I have to admit, Nameless is doing a pretty good job jamming up at least half of the field's DPS, pretty much most of the match. But the problem is they're really short on DPS themselves being applied.
Indeed, they're trying to chunk through the Algos now. Nice, soft target. They can potentially break it, especially with another set of rep bots off the field. But their Scalpel is in trouble. The Tormentor has come back in. He's painting. He is scramming it, and he is controlling that Scalpel right now. Though the Scalpel, just the speed that it has slipped that Tormentor. The fast Minmatar ship beating the slow Amar one, as we see the Algos is really struggling now.
The Algos is just, he's like trying to, it's like a dog chasing his tail, he can't catch it, and there goes the Algos, just goes down. And I mean, he probably had that Micro Warp going full speed, which really increased the SIG, which made it a lot easier for people to hit him, though.
But there's no damage has come down on this Scalpel appreciably. He's still in really high shields. Got lots of rep bots going to be maintaining him. They are key to keeping these little logistics frigates alive. As we see, the Tormentor is the new target of the Charlatans team. They're trying to clear him because he's the only fast tackle that can now deal with their Scalpel.
Yeah, and he is just burning away right now, making sure he gets mostly out of the range. And right now it looks like the only thing he's even in range of is the Hurricane at the moment.
Crucially now, the links are going to be completely worn off from that Harbinger. Harbinger will have been bringing info links that made that Scorpion stronger and would have secured more jam cycles for the Nameless team. Nameless, though, their Scorpion is beginning to take damage, and any damage going on that Scorpion, he's got a lot of buffer, but he's not got resist. He's not going to benefit the same way from those Executor reps as the smaller ships or the higher resist ships who can get more out of each hit point they regain.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's, even without him, he's still doing a pretty good job. Well, he just dropped the jam on the Caracal. Oh, no, he's got jam back. He still has the Roke and the Caracal both jammed out. So, I mean, the thing is, even though they outnumber him ship-wise, they're having a hard time getting the DPS to even kill him right now, because he's keeping pretty consistently half the field jammed out entirely.
Indeed, the Scorpion here, crucially, is not jammed. That ship still has a micro jump drive. It can escape at any point if it needs to. If it escapes in this direction, though, it's going to have a lot of problems because that MJD will just throw him straight out of the arena. His hit point's slowly ticking down, though. The Executor trying his best, but with no resist on that Scorpion, the chunks that will come out of it are huge.
Oh, it looks like the Scorpion's starting to drop into low armor now.
And we see he's spooling the MJD, and we're going to see if he's got this angle right. He might well stay in the arena. He's in hull. He might not make it through to the end, but he's managed it. He has landed other side of the arena. He can still get jams out, potentially. He can still help his team, but he is nowhere near the fight for projecting DPS.
Yeah, and the key thing about that too is when he went out, now he's got to relock everybody. He's there's no jams on the field now. So the bad news now for Nameless is the fact that there is absolutely no jams on any ship on the Charlatans right now. They are completely open to do whatever they want, and they're just going to pick whatever the closest thing is they can take out, which it looks like the X-Square is getting low, and he's probably going to go down quickly.
Indeed, it appears to be the Executor that they are doing it to, as we see him go right into low armor. That wrote so much damage on the blasters if he's left unlocked. The hull of that Executor, strong because it's a Gallente ship, but it's not going to be enough to give that Scorpion time unless the Scorpion can land jams in fall off.
Looks like the Roke has been jammed up. It's not going to be enough. Too little, too late. The X-Square's down in the low hull. And there goes the X-Square.
Crucially, he will have potentially lost the drones repping him from that Scorpion as well, and the Tormentor here is going to be an easy target. He's trying to burn out, he's trying to burn to safety, but that's just going to mean his transversal is right down against that Hurricane.
Yeah, I mean, he's at this point he's basically run out of options in terms of where he can go. There's just too much on the field, and there he goes. And the Scorpion is the only thing left, which now it's only a matter of time before they can get someone to either catch him or he tries to just boundary violate.
Unfortunately, he's already spooled and used his MJD, otherwise he could have gone for the record, usually set in the early weeks, for how far someone can get past the boundary. We see, though, the Scorpion is right into hull. He is going to be the first Scorpion to have lost during this autumn season of Eventi.
Yeah, it looks like the Roke is now just closing in on Caldari action here.
Indeed, and much to everyone's delight, we see the raw damage, the just hit them harder in the face option, beating ECM and making it run away with its tail between its legs as that Scorpion is finally taken down, and we hand this back to the studio with a win for Charlatans.
The Charlatans there taking a pretty solid, and I'm sure everyone who's ever been jammed and been frustrated is very pleased that ECM once again, no, I'll say once again, I think it's the first time the Scorpion has been beaten, but I'm sure everyone that has been jammed is cheering for joy right now as the Scorpion dies in a ball of, well, I was going to swear there, but let's keep that one for later on. So the Charlatans there taking that victory. They jump up over Nameless in the league tables. It looks like, I mean, Sullen, I'm going to bring you in here. It looks like Nameless just didn't have enough DPS. Once that Algos and Harbinger went down, they were left with a rapid heavy Scorpion, which does maybe 450 DPS if you're lucky in bursts. And I mean, that Scalpel could probably rep almost that. But the problem is, can you kill something before you hit reload and let the Scalpel just give all the buffer back? I mean,
yeah, and I mean, that was kind of one of the things that I said going into the match. They really needed to get that Scalpel out because the big problem they have is the lack of DPS, and so if you're trying to fight against anything that's going to be remote repping the other team, it's going to be an uphill battle basically the whole way. And they actually started off very good on the jams. They had a lot jammed out, and very consistently half the field was basically eliminated from doing much of anything. But again, they couldn't get the scalpel down very quickly, and they didn't have the DPS that they could just get through it quick enough. And eventually, it just was only a matter of time before they couldn't. It's like trying to hold down a pack of dogs. So you're trying to keep each of them down, but eventually they're going to break loose, and that's exactly what happened. Eventually, once the DPS from Charlatan started getting applied, it was just they couldn't stop it.
And Alexei, what do you think of the Charlatans? Was it just a case of sort of, you realize you could probably tank a lot of the damage coming from the Nameless team. You can probably kill a lot of their stuff. Is it just a case of position and wait till you get lucky with the jams? Is that what you go for with them?
I think there's always going to be a degree of luck with jams, but focusing that Scorpion, forcing him out was key. Taking out the Harbinger first was just bonus points from that Harbinger being caught out of position. But putting damage onto that Scorpion whenever you can, that lack of resists means that damage actually sticks, even though you wouldn't think it does when it's still got Logi up. You get huge chunks of its HP being torn out, and you can keep doing that again and again. And eventually, if you've got enough DPS and enough luck, you can get through it, even though it's jamming you.
Yeah, and it looks like captain of the Charlatans team saying that the Hurricane was just basically permajammed through that entire match. So that damage was just purely coming from the Talor, Caracal, and the Roke. The Caracal and Talor, of course, can apply from range. So the Harbinger, if he wants to be in range, he's going to be in range of the Caracal and the Talor. But that Roke, though, it is just basically a ballistic missile. It doesn't do much damage from range, but when it gets there, it's just going to put a whole load of smackdown on you. And that it definitely did, forcing that Scorpion to jump out, as Alexei has said. Now, Alexei, I want to ask you something. Nameless here, picking up that Harbinger for the info links. Do you think perhaps this comp would have maybe worked a little bit better for them with something like, say, a Brutix, to give them maybe a bit more speed to get away?
I think the Harbinger is a very good choice. It lets them enhance the strength of those Scorpion jams. It's got a similar degree of projection. Perhaps a bit less than Brutix, but it does put a decent amount of damage out. We've seen teams in the past potentially go for things like the Oracle or other attack battle cruisers in that slot, relying on the fact they have a Scorpion and a logistics cruiser to mitigate damage and putting all of their damage into that slot, which we've seen work fairly well because it means you do more with the time that you buy. But crucially, the Hurricane pickup opposite to that Harbinger brings the same info links and gave resistance to the jams. And once they lost the Harbinger, their jams were less effective than they could have been, and that would have been key in getting damage onto that Scorpion.
Yeah, I think quite importantly as well, they lost the Harbinger and that Hurricane was still up. He was still able to apply info links to the rest of the Charlatans team, making that Scorpion even less effective than it would be if neither team had brought any form of info links. So a pretty good pickup there by the Charlatans there. I think that Hurricane, just they recognised that perhaps they'd left the Scorpion open. In fact, if you look at the pick ban order, the Charlatans get the first Battlecruiser pick, followed by Nameless picking both Battlecruiser and Battleship, and then the Charlatans finally pick a Battleship. It looks like maybe Charlatans recognised here that the Scorpion was open, it was a threat, and they picked up that Hurricane as a sort of a safe pick. There's perhaps better shield Battlecruisers available for them. The Hurricane is good, it's got good projection, it does damage, but it is quite flimsy. But one of the main reasons teams do pick it up is for those info links. Now, if the captain, who is an experienced captain here at EVAN-T, recognised Scorpion still open, he might have picked up that Hurricane simply to try and reduce the effectiveness of the Scorpion, and it looks like it worked. So Charlatan's taking a pretty well-deserved win there. Now, Alexei, while you're here, you are the stats man for us. Do you want to give us a little bit of a breakdown? What do you do? How do you get all these amazing stats?
Well, unfortunately, when we're doing it on Thunderdome, it's all manually. It's a lot of watching screens, lots of watching timestamps in local, collecting it together, and then just running a lot of what is to me very exciting, but to everyone else incredibly boring calculations, putting this together and to pull out all the interesting statistics that I do manage to pull out about the different ship classes, the different types of E-War that get used, all of this. Anyone who follows my stats blog sees the detail that I go into. But I have a lot of help here from Leanne, who you listed my statistics helper earlier. who's making this frankly possible, because it's all being done manually from screen reading, basically.
Yeah, if you've not read any of Alexei's stat blogs, make sure you do check them out. They're on the EVNT website, which I don't think is migrated to the Plus 10 website yet, but I might be wrong there. But they are available. Just go dig them out and just have a read. If you're into the AT and all the metas and the stats and stuff like that, which I'm sure some of you are, then it's definitely worth a read. They're pretty long as well, and like go into such an incredible amount of detail. I do believe you included some heart rate graphs from the Alliance Tournament broadcast, which was very interesting to see. Some from CCP and one from yours truly. But it is enough of that sort of chin wagging, and let us move on to look at the next match coming up. It's going to be UNOT versus Only Points. So before I stick the bands up, I'm going to find my Elise Randolph document here and find out exactly where Only Points and UNOT are. So Only Points coming into today, they were sixth, having only played one matches. So I think they played another one today already. So they will be looking to continue any success that they've been having. Now, Sullen Decimus. Why don't you just break down UNOT and what they've brought for me here?
Well, it's a pretty interesting composition they've got here. They got the Riptor, the Algos, the X-Square. So again, we're seeing the armor, fast ships there in the beginning. They've banned the Abaddon and the Harbinger, so it looks like they're trying to remove a lot of the very high DPS laser boats from the field. And then their last ban was the Scorpion. So that actually opened up a lot for the other side. They could have gone with Griffins, Blackbirds. They basically had their pick of what they wanted for the small jamming ships, but it looks like the whole point of that was because they got the Rifter and the Algos, they could actually close in if they did pick one of those fast ones. And then to close it out, they got the Brutix and the Dominix for their main DPS ships going on. But a good all-armor composition there. And then, which makes sense because if you look at the bans for Only Points, they've basically removed any possible shield logistics from the field whatsoever.
Yeah, and Jebby, what do you think here about Only Points? What have they brought for us?
Oh, the Only Points are running the strong Minotaur lineup with the Scalpel, Thrasher, Cyclone Tempest, and then the off Caracal, right? The Scalpel is gonna be signature tanking and kiting. That's his been and keeping his body is alive. With the shield is faster than the armor, right? The fits basically, right? So when when they're gonna be kiting off, it's gonna be kind of easier for the Only Points dudes. But at the same time, the UNOT running a strong lineup of the tried and tested Rifter, Algos, Executor, right, with the Brutix Dominix. So we'll see what's going on there. The Cyclone into the Tempest is oddly specific picking, especially since they banned the Hyperion, right? I was kind of maybe expecting them to pick other things, but we'll see what goes on there, how they choose to play it. It's gonna come a lot down to who warps at what distances and what the fighting is, right? The Only Points, Caracal and the Scalpel are probably gonna wanna pull some kind of range. In that regard, Scalpel is kind of limited because he needs to be really close to the thing he's wrapping, and we'll see, right?
Yeah, of course, so that Scalpel does come in, and he can have his cap just put by those heavy units on that Dominix. But one thing before we go to the match, I want to bring in Jebby again on this one, is UNOT on their third ban, choosing to ban a Scorpion. Now, a Scorpion is an armor ship. Is that a wasted ban for UNOT, or is that still something that they really want to get rid of? Even though, for Only Points to pick it, it would be an off-tank ship. Do you think it's wasted ban, or do you think it's a valid ban there?
Here's how it went down. He was like, well, there's no Griffin banned and picked. There's no Blackbird banned or picked. He's gonna pick the Scorpion off tank 100%. That's thought process of the UNOT pick ban dude, right? That's why he banned the Scorpion. That's how I imagine it going down.
So you're saying basically he was just trying to make sure our stats line up, and the fact that ECM is either picked or banned in every single match. Yeah, he saw that, yeah. And he's like,
We're not
well,
gonna leave it all open for you.
Yeah, he was like, Alexei, don't worry, I got you. I'm going to have that graph sorted. I'm picking that Scorpion. And that's what he did. Although it would have been interesting, of course, to see an off-tank Scorpion in that Only Points setup. The Cyclone is pretty DPS-y, but nothing compared to the Tempest, which is just an absolute monster of a ship. It's got an amazing, beastly local tank with that large ancillary shield booster, extra large, sorry, ancillary shield booster, and a huge amount of DPS, both up close and ranged.
One of the things I'm going to be really watching for is that Thrasher and Rifter possibly going at it, because if you look at it, the Algos is able to apply his DPS even not on top of it, but the Rifter is going to want to be closing in. Likewise, though, the Thrasher, though, also is going to be trying to protect his Scalpel probably, so we might see some Mimitar on Mimitar action going on between those two as the Thrasher tries to prevent the Rifter from trying to tackle anything.
Oh, for sure. And that Thrasher is pretty decent, but the problem with the Thrasher is it is absolutely flimsy. It is a glass cannon. So it's going to be a case of who commits first. If that Rifter commits first, and then that Thrasher picks him up out of range of his Executor, then, bye-bye, Rifter, GG, thanks for playing. But if that Thrasher gets out of position and gets caught himself, then he is going to also just be absolutely decimated, especially by that Brutix and that Dominix if they get anywhere near him. So all around, this is going to be a position, and a very exciting one, I think so. It is time to hand over to the arena to find out the winner of UNOT and Only Points. And for this match, your commentators are going to be Mr. Madden and Mr. Sullen.
Hello and welcome to this match where we've got UNOT versus Only Points. I'm Madden, joined here by Mr. Sullen for something that I think is going to be very fun to watch. You got some Mimitar, you got some Gallente, you got some Caldari. What is your favorite race, Sullen, as we wait these last 10 seconds?
Oh, it's got to be Mimitar. I love the whole concept of being fast and hitting hard and then getting out and getting the job done. But it looks like we're going to start the match here. They got the Cyclone and the Tempest both for Only Points sitting at near 0, real close to the action. And it looks like we're starting the match now.
Yeah, so we got some guys moving at speed, the Thrasher immediately, as well as the Caracal and the Rifter going over 1k a second, or 1 meter a second essentially. Very good to watch. We're going to see some interesting positioning, interesting drone.
There goes those Acolytes right from the get-go. They're putting them right on top of that Thrasher. They're trying to get him down as quick as possible.
Algos taking
really
first damage. That's a big damage right off the bat.
Oh
it's
my
gosh. Armor. They really don't like the Algos. It's a personal choice, clearly.
No, they want to get that Algos out of there because he's got the ability to actually do a lot of long-range damage to smaller ships. And as you can see, they are really pummeling on that Algos. They want to make sure that he does not have the ability to take out their fast tackle.
Yeah, and he's getting hurt, but he's catching reps now. As you're seeing, the Cyclone's got everything's on the Cyclone. He's got newts on him, he's got grapplers, he's got webs, he's got scram.
They have just plowed their Tempest and Cyclone right into the middle now, actually, of the whole pack. The Tempest and the Cyclone are just right in the middle of the action, just completely absorbing all of the attention of the UNOT team now.
Yeah, that's a really weird match because everything's kind of right in the middle. The Scalpel is the only thing that's not in the middle of the entire ball, basically. Very fun to watch.
And now it looks like Only Points realizes, oh no, we have to go in and help our guys because their Tempest and Cyclone are just right in the middle. It looks like they're trying to.
The Brutix is taking huge damage. Praetors are on the field. What's happening?
This is just a mob going on right now between both teams, right in just a giant ball in the middle of all the damage just being spread out.
Yeah, you got to feel for that Execure pilot Flak. You know, this is crazy to try and keep up with this many choices, this many changing people. It's really, really hard as Logic Pilot to constantly be watching. All right, I want to go after this guy.
It looks like Only Points has spread the damage out amongst the Expert Brutix and Algos, but the Brutix is taking most of the flak right now. He's getting reps.
Well, the Algos is getting hit too. They've split DPS now. They've realized they can't break one by itself, so they're just going to make that Logic Pilot's life a net.
The Brutix is in a hole now.
Yeah, we gotta remember the Brutix structure tank works. So Brutix, it's playing the structure tank game. Unfortunately, the Algos and the Brutix don't play that well together. Looks like they're both gonna die almost at the same time. That's bad. Algos goes down.
There goes the Algos. Algos goes down. That's actually a big loss though for UNOT because now they just lost most of their smaller DPS on the smaller ships.
Question is if now Flak can keep that Brutix alive. He needs to overheat, keep that Brutix, get him a little bit of armor because the Thrash is also taking damage. I mean, there's a chance they can still come back to this, but they gotta keep that Brutix alive. It's critical.
Yeah, it looks like the Cyclone's actually taking damage now, which the Cyclone is not going to do well once he starts to get into armor and hull.
He's in armor!
He's in armor. It looks like the Cyclone's now actually starting to dip down into armor. He is not going to stand very long.
Pull this back. Don't let it be a one-sided phone. We want to see this. Take out the Cyclone. Get some Mimitar blood.
About to go. He's going in a hull. Once the Cyclone hits hull, he is not going to last very long.
No, absolutely not. That Cyclone's not long for this world, as the Scalpel is definitely struggling to keep up once this DPS is applied to a big ship. Choices, big ship versus big ship, is hard with a single Logi.
And there goes the Cyclone now for Only Points. Amazingly, UNOT still has the Brutix still in the match. He is down in the low hull, but they have managed to keep him alive and rep him back up to almost full armor health now.
never forget the structure tank effect of Robertix. Any Galente ship, really, but Robertix is key, because now they're going after the Executor, which is a good choice. I think they might lose the Scalpel, too, but the Executor is only going to be able to tank for so long, at which point they're probably going to be able to take it down, especially as they start to lose their damage, the Tempest and the Caracal by themselves.
Web's
although the
being
Tempest
spread all
is taking
around,
a lot
too.
of damage. They're taking
looks-
out
alright,
the Tempest and the Scalpel now.
Yeah, the Tempest is fully webbed. He is not going anywhere fast right now. If they can eliminate the Tempest, that is a huge amount of DPS for only points being removed off of the field.
Oh, this Tempest goes down, they've won the match. Absolutely, no doubt about it.
Meanwhile, the export then for Unot, though, on the other hand, is also down into low armor right now. If they, this could go either way. They might have to make a trade here. They might trade off a high DPS, but also take out reps on the other side, which I don't know how that would go.
What I don't understand is so why I think the Scalpel is just struggling to try and stay alive here because he's not put any reps into that Tempest. I think the Scalpel is completely neutered out by the Dami. Great choice, by the way, picking the Dami here. The Scalpel is basically useless. Tempest only has local reps. I think it has maybe just refreshed, the Scalpel got one off, but Tempest is going to go down here because it just doesn't have the ability to rep, whereas the Executor is sitting pretty basically far away and not taking any damage now.
Yeah, it looks like only Unot has got everything on top of that Tempest to try and bring him down. He is in halfway through his hull right now, and
Yeah,
now
he's dead on the water.
Yep,
as
there
he goes
goes.
down.
He's
Come
he's
on.
down.
Yeah, no,
At the same time,
yeah, well, I mean,
on Unot is taking hull damage
yeah,
now.
there we go. He's trying to that Caracal probably going through reload cycles is now. It might take out that Executor, but I wonder if it's too little, too late with the Dami on one side versus no real damage applicability on the other. Executor goes down.
Exactly as we said. They traded the DPS and they lost their remote reps then. So this is an interesting match now.
Yeah, but you gotta wonder, can you take out a Dami versus a Brutix and a Rifter? I'd probably take that over my Caracal Thrasher combo. They got Logi, but I think I'd take it.
I would agree on that. I mean, this would be a slow grind right now to try and take that amount of hit points with what only points he's got left on the field for DPS.
As the Thrasher disappears.
Oh, they're the Thrasher.
I think those nukes might make it impossible.
That
They're
Thrasher
now
just got
nuking the
deleted.
Caracal just as a joke. Oh man, that Dami was such a great choice over here by Unot. The Dami is so powerful. You know, Ithaca mentioned it a while ago. The Dami Hyperion combo. You gotta stop banning the Hyperion guys. Ban the Dami. Those newts, they're crazy powerful. You get the damage application. You know, especially when you're talking about one frigate Logi, you're never gonna be able to survive those newts. Tempest never got reps. That's what decided this match.
I will definitely agree to that. I mean, the thing that people don't realize is that the Dami is just such an amazing utility ship. It's just got so much it can do between the damage and the newts. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like people take it for granted because they just don't realize just how effective it is. If the Dami closes in on your team, he's got so many options on how he can affect the game on.
Yeah, plus we get to see a Rifter win the match here, and I think that's great for everybody. Although the Rifter is not taking a lot of damage. Caracal Rifter, it's going to be a close one, maybe.
Oh, yeah, there it goes. And the character goes down. So great win for Unot there.
Absolutely, and with that, we will send it back to the studio.
Hey guys, welcome back. Unot there taking the win over only points, but I'm sure they don't mind. After all, it is only points. Now, Madden, where did they kind of go wrong there for only points? It looked like they were in such control at the start. They got that Algos down, which is a pretty good utility ship for the Unot team, and then it all just kind of fell apart. I mean, what happened?
Well, and I need to double check this myself right now, but I believe, reload cycles probably played a role here. You got rapid lights on the Caracal, so I think that was a big component. They're able to take out that Algos quickly as the Caracal is just burning all its damage right there. And then as the match went on, the effect of the Dami's newts, I think, became more and more severe. Everybody was right on top of each other, so there was a really big impact as they're trying to, burn through things, wait through reload cycles, and you just could see they couldn't quite finish the job on that Executor. They never managed to do it. I think they made good choices in who they were targeting. It was just a matter of trying to take out ships that you don't quite have the power to do.
Yeah, that cyclone and that cyclone and that tempest having a huge burst tank. They can tank a lot more damage than, for example, the Dominics can, but only for a shorter period of time. Of course, once they run out of those charges, then they are just going to melt. And we saw that happen there. The cyclone, once he stopped boosting, he just disappeared. The tempest looked like he got maybe a couple of boosts off towards the end. I'm debating myself whether he managed to get a reload in and he got maybe 2 or 3 shots off on that, or whether he was just boosting from cap. But it wasn't enough. It was too little too late. The Scalpel just keep him up against all that DPS coming in from the Unot, Brutix, and Dominics, and Rifter still that was still on the field quite late, although the Argos was, of course, DED dead. Now, Alexei, I believe you have a graph for me. You're going to tell me, you come in. This is your graph. You tell me about this graph. You tell me.
Okay, we've got graph coming up. Win rates of the most successful ships. Long time try and track win rates. Just you had all these anomalies that got picked for one ship. So this is only actually going to consider ships that have played at least 5 matches, but it's ships that are winning the most and being picked a lot. So we're going to see ships here like the Dragoon, like the Algos, that get picked in a lot of comps and win in a lot of those comps. Dominic's, though, is one that's really standing out at the moment because it does define the comp that it's picked in, and it's winning a fairly large amount, getting strong performances from the Dominics in all of its matches. It's been reworked, of course, coming from the Cup into the season. It's now an armor brawling fit from the slightly weird shield kitey fit that it was a couple of years ago, but now this means it's bringing so much with a lot of upfront damage. It's even got some blasters now. It's got a lot of neuting power. It can control the targets it gets on top of, and it's performing really well. The Hurricane we're also seeing get a decent win rate, but a lot of actually what we're seeing here is win rates aren't incredible for the most popular ships. None of the ships that are being picked by all of the teams at the moment have massively strong win rates, aside from that Dragoon.
Yeah, I think we see a lot of the destroyers get picked up and win quite a lot simply because there is a very limited range of destroyers that can be picked, and if you're picking armor destroyers, you're almost certainly going to be picking up either the Dragoon or the Algos because they just provide much more utility, tank, and pretty much damage compared to every other armor destroyer. Shield, a little bit more variant there. They've got some long range, they've got some short range, they've got some sort of almost Algos-esque equivalency in the Synesis. But because of that, those picks tend to be spread around a little bit more compared to the armor. I mean, is that something maybe we see a little bit, Alexei?
I think that's definitely something we're seeing here as well. The Scythe and Executor showing up, both of them there. They are viewed at the moment as being the stronger picks on shield and on armor for that slot. And when you have such a tight pool to pick from, you're going to see it. You're going to see the ships in it be picked up quite a lot, but neither of them have incredibly strong win rates at the moment. So we're seeing the slightly more out there compositions, not necessarily the traditional ones, pick up the wins at the moment.
Yeah, I think it is quite interesting that we're seeing that Executor, the pick rate just being so high, especially in comparison to anything else on that graph. And also if you look across the rest of the graph, it's all almost completely armor dominated. So it looks like we're starting to see a meta develop that is a very heavily armor based meta. I mean, Madden, is that something that you maybe think as well? Are you seeing a lot of armor stuff? Are you surprised about that, or do you expect to see more shield as the season develops?
Well, I mean, certainly we've seen a lot of armor early on. I think I'm a little bit surprised. I wouldn't expect it to be so severe. I think it comes a lot of the time from the strength of the Executor. I mean, if you look at the pick rate of the Executor, I think it's been picked in, 85% of the matches. So that definitely plays a role. Trying to come up with a way to utilize either the Scythe or the Osprey as effectively as the Executor, I think is really hard. And that comes into play, especially in a match format like this. I'd like to see that change. I don't know if it will, but certainly even if armor stays as the meta, with the Frigate Logi, I think we're going to see a lot of variations.
Cool. And now we are halfway through today's broadcast. We've had 4 matches, and we have another 4 matches to show you today. So let's just take a quick rundown of the standings as they are. So the Charlatans, with that pretty solid win earlier on, jump up into first place over Templars. They are sitting up there, 7 league points for them. Templars as well at 7 league points, and Unot also in third place at 7 league points. This is purely decided now on points difference. The Charlatans racking up a points difference of 25 points, Templars at 17 and UNOT at 11. So remember what we said earlier on about it being very, very important that you don't just sacrifice ships. This is where it comes into play. We have 3 teams here on the exact same win-loss ratio, on the exact same number of points in the league, but yet the Charlatans are first and UNOT are third purely on points difference. So remember that if you're coming into next year in the EVNT Cup, or if you're a pilot and captain in major or minor leagues, every single ship and point does count, and it does make a difference. So to run that down again, Charlatans, Templars, UNOT are first, second and third. In fourth place with 6 points is Nameless and Clever Girls in 5th place. Again, just on points difference there, so Clever Girls potentially to jump up a whole nother bunch of spaces. In 6th is Diametrically Opposed, followed by Only Points and See You Kids. Now, Only Points and See You Kids, the only 2 teams as of yet currently winless. They will be looking to try and pick up a win going forward today. I think Only Points have one more match today to still try and secure one of those wins. The See You Kids as well have at least 2 more today, so they do have some opportunities to go away with some points rather than no points. Now, speaking of the See You Kids, they are up next against Diametrically Opposed. So let's just bring the picks and bans up for those teams here, and let's just take a quick look at them. Now, Sullen, what do you reckon Diametrically Opposed? What have they brought here for us?
Well, it's an it's an interesting setup here with the Vigil and then the Synesis. I'm not exactly sure what their plan is with that. You can see with the Raven, they're really going for that missile damage, but I'm kind of curious how well it'll be. I mean, I guess it makes more sense, though, if you look, because the Vigil will be applying the target paints, and it looks like they're going to be trying to get a pair-up of the Vigil and the Raven specifically to try and apply as much damage as possible from that thing.
Yeah, it looks like they are just going for burst damage there with that Rapid Heavy Raven. Of course, it gets a bonus on missile firing rate, I believe, so it'll be able to just run through that clip in absolute record time.
And one thing to point out, sorry, is the fact that, I mean, the one thing about this whole setup, though, is that if that Vigil goes down, that is a big loss of applied damage, because all of a sudden now the Raven is going to have a hard time really applying very good damage against anything except for the 2 biggest ships on the other side.
It does look, though, and I'll bring Alexa here on this and he can run down the See You Kids, but it does look like the See You Kids are going to struggle to get anything on that Vigil. It does go about something like 4k a second without even heating. Alexa, what have the See You Kids brought, and why will they struggle to kill that Vigil?
The See You Kids have brought what's a more typical armor composition for this year. They've got Execura, Hyperion at the top end has been allowed through bans. They Diametrically Opposed actually choosing to ban the Dominics over the Hyperion. So See You Kids pick up the Hyperion for the top end. They've got a Brutix, bringing them the same skirmish links that Ferox is giving to Diametrically Opposed. Then Algos and Rifter at the bottom end. Basically, from the Destroyer pickup, there's a lot of comparisons you can draw between these teams, both having that drone-oriented support destroyer, both having skirmish links, and both having a very strong logistics cruiser. The Hyperion, however, compared to that Raven, is going to be able to tank more and put out way more sustained damage. You'll see on the pick ban tool there that we have, it has nearly 300 more DPS than the Raven. That is really going to tell if it can get onto any targets, but the Vigil is a ridiculously fast ship. The Rifter isn't. Even with the buffs that it's had recently, it's a strong tackle ship, but it's not that fast. And it's just not going to be able to keep up with the Vigil. The biggest danger to that Vigil is actually going to be the Algos probably being able to throw light drones out to chase it down, but the Vigil can probably kite them away quite easily, and it has just enough DPS with the, I believe, 1 autocannon that it can plink away at the light drones that chase it.
Yeah, one of the things important to note here with this Raven, with the Rapid Heavies, is that DPS shown, I do believe that doesn't take into account the reloads, so I think during the period when it is firing, it is substantially higher, but then of course it has to wait, I think it's 35 seconds for that Rapid Heavy reload, and that will be a long time. I think this comp for Diametrically Opposed will really come down to, can they catch and break something before that Raven hits reload? Because if they're going for something that is not the logistic ship and they cannot kill it before the Raven hits reload, then that Executor is just going to happily rep back up to full armor anything that is being shot, and then that means they have to wait another 35 seconds to try again on a different target, or perhaps the same target if they're a little bit crazy. If they're going for the Executor itself, if they don't kill it, then there's a chance that it gets its pace reloaded or just manages to break away and kite off during that period, or maybe even just rep bots keep it alive. I mean, that dropping off of the DPS from that Raven is going to be crucial, and I think within the first 30 seconds, or sorry, I should say within the first 30 seconds of the teams engaging each other, we will probably see whether or not Diametrically Opposed are going to break something on the Sea Kids side here. I know at least Randolph in the back, our tournament director, is pretty happy to see the Raven. He loves it. It's his favourite ship this season, I believe. So happy at least in the background. Now, it is time to find out exactly who's going to win this particular match. I'm going to hand you over to the arena, and your two commentators are going to be Jebby and Madden.
Yo, hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is going to be the glorious battle between Diametrically Opposed versus the Sea Kids. I'm JB, joined by my good friend Madden. Madden, can you please tell us about the warpins of the dudes? What are they doing?
Well, so this is really, really good for the Sea Kids side because their Executor is 60 kilometers or more away from any of the tackle here for Diametrically Opposed. Everything else they've got warped in round 0 and then Diametrically all at 30. So very interesting warp-ins, good advantages for Sea Kids.
Itaka said it good. It's gonna be seen on the first roll of the Raven. The shield boys are kiting off and the armor boys are burning in a straight line into them. Let's see what tackles what.
The Sunesis is going after it, but the Rifter's taking damage. A lot of damage. All shields are gone.
Bye-bye, Rift. Oh, he is getting caught by the drone. No, he's not.
The Sunesis is right on top of him. The Sunesis is a good ship? Is it? I don't know. I've never seen
amazing.
the Sunesis.
2 shield extenders, 3 tech 2 rigs. First blood. Bye-bye, Rifter.
So Sunesis, best ship in Eve. I did not expect this to be a thing, but the Scythe is catching reps. As the Algos is now going down the structure.
The shield is butchering them. The DPS is overwhelming. He can't connect reps of the armor. They land on the end of the cycle, right? He bursts through that thing.
The Raven versus Armor Reps is an incredible matchup, as now the Brutix is going to take it. The Brutix will not die before it catches reps. I have 100% confidence in saying that, but the Raven's been super effective at making the Executor just wish it was faster on the rep cycles.
Oh, if you look at this little Vigil pillow, he's just floating around and not getting killed. That's really good for him. No warrior drones or anything are going after him. I was kind of expecting the Algos to be sending the fast drones after the Vigil. The Brutix
yeah, he
is
never
dying.
had to do anything. That's surprising. Yeah, the Brutix is going to go down here unless the Raven goes into reload cycle. I am surprised they're able to burn right through it, but structure for a Brutix is nothing to shake your fist at. Maybe it's going to hold on, as now the Ferox is also taking damage. You know, CA Kids has got to shoot something, so at least they're taking advantage of this opportunity.
Okay, it's kind of also a range thing. The Executor, he's burning into the Brutix. It's kind of late for him. There's no living for the Brutix there. Maybe the reroll of the Raven, as you said, of the Hysos. Nah, he did.
Yeah, you gotta wonder if that Executor could have maybe made a move earlier, or if there was a range issue with his reps. I think he was alright, but if that was a factor, it's really disappointing to see that him just making the move.
The Ferox hitting 50% shield, but he's gonna be pretending, right? Sky safe king there. They're bait tanking that thing. It's a single
Bait take
Hyperion.
Ferox. I like it. I always wanted to bait take Ferox.
There, Hyperion is chewing through his shield. Let's see how he likes that.
I imagine he doesn't like it very much at all. I mean, would you like it?
Nope, he's suffering greatly there. The Executor of Sabo is also suffering. That's gonna be one hell of an exchange. The Ferox for 4 ships.
I think it's a good one. I think they take it, though. If they can keep the Ferox alive, then they can maybe go for a clean sweep here. Really critical if that Ferox can manage to overheat its tank, essentially.
Well,
Maybe
see,
take out a few drones.
It's gonna be tense, right? The Ferox, I was expecting him to be living more, right? He's kind of thin on the health.
I think that really was bait tanking. I think he was just bait tanking. I think the whole thing was a bait, because now he's back up to what, 40%?
Yeah, rep, good. The damage onto the Executor is kind of also floating. He has these repair drones.
Reload. For sure, the Ravens on reload. 60 seconds of boredom, and then we get 60 seconds of awesomeness as this Executor is absolutely going to disappear. Best 60 seconds of the matches are the beginning, and then now this moment when we see the Hyperion versus Ravens massive DPS at burst tank.
Now we'll see that tank put to the test. He's gonna spin everything he's got.
That Hyperion, he's just got to get, if you can take something out, at least he can pull a little bit back from this, make it not a domination loss, get a little, hurt the other guys, get a little bit something from this. I feel like the Hyperion, maybe throw something at the Vigil, maybe get a lucky shot here, or the Sunesis even, rather than going, there it is, he's going after the Sunesis. I like the call. Take him down. Do it.
As soon as he's under his guns, the Scythe has him. It's a good attempt.
But Blood Ruin has been really good, and that Sunesis, who I've now discerned is the best ship in the game, has proven his value.
Yeah, the two extenders were really good at the beginning with the 3 core defense field extender rigs and the Sunesis. He has like 8,000 HP in the shield, and he just went for the man tackle.
Yeah, you really got to take advantage here. The power of that Raven, especially against armor, when the reps land at the end of the cycle, there was pretty much nothing that Sabo and the Execute could do, as his Algos and Rifter just disappeared. Even if he'd pre-rep them, I'm not sure if he would have been able to keep them up against this Raven here with the Vigil.
Only if the Vigil vaporized, right? If he alpha the Vigil, it would have been kind of normal, but besides that, no.
And now we're gonna have to wait another 60 seconds.
Oh, he's MJDing! No, interrupted. Interrupted. Nope, he did it! Oh, he did it! I saw the scram animation with my eyes. It was a bit too late then. Okay, he kind of MJD there, boys. And didn't boundary.
I'll be honest, I'm a little disappointed he didn't boundary. But there's next time. At least the ship looks cool. It's pretty. It's purple. That's fantastic for the game. There's nothing wrong with a good purple ship here. So now he's going to take a little bit of damage and try and maybe fight back. Maybe the Rifter will come right in. The Vigil will come right at him. Come on, Vigil. Make your move.
Oh, he's going for that tackle, and the Sunesis, watch that straight line into the hype.
Who needs transversal when you have reps? I like it. Come on, Hyperion. Do something. Take out the Sunesis. Prove it.
He's trying for it. Trying for the boundary. Nah.
He's never going to do boundary.
Nah, no way, no.
Well, now we get to watch the Hyperion versus entire team battle. So far, it looks like the entire team is a little bit better than the Hyperion, but the Hyperion's making moves. Still in armor, probably in revving.
Sunesis has him under the guns. He can't untackle himself out again. How did he become unscrammed? So, like, there's a mini mistake there. But he was like, haha, made you use your prop mod, well.
Yeah, if you can't beat him, make him laugh. And I'm laughing. That was a great move. I enjoyed it. And there goes the Hyperion. As good fights are in local, we can now send it back to the studio with this great victory for Diametrically Opposed.
Hi guys, welcome back. That is a victory there for Elise Randolph and the Raven as Diametrically Opposed take a pretty solid victory over the Sia Kids. I mean, Madden, was it just the pure amount of damage that was being put down by that Raven there? Is that what swung the match for them, or was it some other elite tactics? I did hear some words of bait tanking Ferrixes going on at some point.
Yeah, I think more or less it was the Raven combined with going against armor, combined with a little bit late on the reps from the Execure that made it kind of an easier match for Diametrically Opposed. I will say at the end that Ferrix was 100% bait tanking, and no matter what else is said, clearly Diametrically Opposed have fantastic baiting tactics. That's really good to see. Clearly, they're going to be someone to watch. You never know what they're going to be doing into a match. I can't wait to see the Sunesis again. I think that should be the #1 pick ship. Anyone who's going Shield and doesn't pick the Sunesis, that's a bad call, because I've never flown one on TQ. I think I have one. It's in Jita. Now I need to fly that ship.
Yeah, it's one of those jack of all trades, master of nothing, and in this format it kind of functions as a Shield, Algos, or Dragoon, giving that sort of utility drones. A lot of people bring the Algos or the Dragoon and just like drop, say, rep bots, for example. It can feel the whole flight of them, and also can bring damage bots as well. So it really is a bit of a Swiss Army knife of a ship to bring to your Shield comp. Up until the Sunesis was introduced this season, Shield had no equivalent. So it is nice to see they have something. But speaking of ships, Mr. Alexei Aksan, I do believe you have another graph for me.
I believe we do, one which was prepared before the last break, so it's actually slightly out of date now because we have a graph here of the ships by race. So we're going to see 0 for the Society of Conscious Thought when actually they gave the Sunesis, which was key to that victory in the last match. Otherwise, we're seeing, though, actually a fairly even spread between the races. None of them are massively standing out. Gallente and Minmatar edging slightly ahead. Gallente providing a lot of the strong battleships, the Dominics, the Hyperion, and the there is another one, I've completely forgotten its name, the Megathron. All of them really valid, really strong picks. The Brutix being shown last year, it was trash tier last year. This year it is up there at the top. It's being picked in so many matches. The Execura as well, because people still love armor over shield, and they love the Execura over the Augra. We're seeing so much love to Gallente, and that's letting them just about edge ahead at the moment.
Yeah, this graph, of course, also indicating, as we all know, that Caldari is in fact the worst race and is down there at the bottom where it belongs. Amarr pulling up roughly even with Minmatar. I'm sure the Amarr Overlord is not happy with that. And then Gallente just sitting up pretty, probably due to that very popular Executor, as Alexei mentioned. Now, we do have another 3 whole matches to go. I mean, I can't believe it. We've got so many cool matches and so many cool matches still to go. I'm sure you all can't believe it as well. You're probably all sitting there in your house on the big screen enjoying looking at my face while I talk to you about picks and bans of internet spaceships. It really is the pinnacle of Saturday evening entertainment. So coming up is going to be Nameless versus Clever Girls. Clever Girls, of course, taking that win earlier on today, proving that they can maintain position inside a sphere of 125 kilometers without extending over it. Can they do it again? We will obviously find out in about 8 minutes. So, Alexei, why don't you break down what Clever Girls boundary non-violators extraordinaires are choosing to bring for us today?
Well, it appears they are bringing a drone extravaganza for us today. They have Rifter, Dragoon, Execura, Prophecy, and Dominix. And that Execura is going to be near impossible to kill if Clever Girls choose to make it that way. The Dragoon and Prophecy typically, we've seen even in previous years, they're picked so they can provide rep bots to their logistics. The Dominix could even provide more, and if they do that with the armor links from the Prophecy, that Execura is going to be incredibly difficult to deal with for Nameless.
Another side, Jebby, what do you think? Nameless are bringing just quite a high DPS comp, especially with that Hurricane combined with that Vigil. Is that going to make a difference for them? Are they going to be able to apply to the small ships quite well?
Oh, as long as the Vigil is alive, they will. It's a peculiar thought process. He was like, I'm gonna ban the Hyperion and deliberately pick the Tempest, right? That's like... He was thinking 7 layers of meta ahead of us, right? He knows things which we don't. And they're running the old shield kiting. The Kane is really good. It's basically like one of the strongest battle cruisers ever. And then the Tempest has that face melting DPS kind of if he can get on top of the thing. So we'll see who can kite what and connect damage to what.
And of course, that Tempest isn't going to be too bothered by the newts of that Dominix if he gets in up close, because he will be able to keep his ancillary booster going for quite well. His guns don't need cap. It's only really his shield resistance module, whose name I've completely forgotten. Someone help me here.
Adaptive Invulnerability Field.
That's the one. He's Tech 2 Adaptive Invulnerability Field is going to be well fed with cap until that Dominix gets near him, and that of course will affect how much he can tank, but he is not as vulnerable as, for example, say a Apocalypse, which is going to need tank to run its cap to run its tank and its guns. So they can get in and they can brawl and they can try and kill that Dominix. But as Alexei mentioned, with those armor links from that Prophecy, is going to be one tough cookie to crack. All them EHPs just pouring in from that Executor as it flies around. So it looks like, I mean, Jebby, what are you going to do if you're a Clever Girls? Are you going to try and brawl in against that Tempest off the bat and trust your Executor, trust your Prophecy links? Or are you going to try and play a bit more coy?
Okay, the Prophecy and the Dominics need to go for the Kane and Tempest, and at the same for the tackle, and at the same time they need to dumpster the Vigil. If the Vigil dies within the first 5 seconds of the match, then it's gonna be that's what the clever girls are gonna try to do in my mind, right? The Executor is gonna warp in at 50 kilometers off, and the rest of the dudes are gonna be at like 0 and send in the fast drones and oppressive stuff on the Vigil and everything else on the tackle.
I mean, that Vigil, though, is probably going to be able to kite away a lot of those drones. As mentioned earlier on, he does go something about 3.8k per second without even having to heat. He's a speedy little bugger. He's going to just fly around, painting things at range, and if necessary, he can just come flying in, do a drive-by web on something, slowing it down, allowing that Tempest to get that little bit extra range on something, or a close in on something as and when is needed. In fact, it's probably got so much speed that if it decided to go and do a drive-by web on that Prophecy, which has a web and a scram, it would probably still coast out of scram range just from inertia. So it's going to be very, very hard to catch. They don't really have anything, Clever Girls, to take care of it. I mean, do you just ignore the Vigil at that point and hope that you can overcome it, or do you devote maybe your Dragoon and Rifter to chasing it down?
Drones of the Dragoon go after him, right? That's really good for his purpose. That's the best shot they have. And then if he starts flying away in a straight line, then he's lined up into the rest of the DPS. I'm not gonna be surprised if I see a bunch of strange drones which are not DPS drones, right? If you see, like, tracking disruptor drones and armor drones, that's what I'm expecting there. Like, except the Dragoon, which is gonna be sending maybe even the undersized drones from the... I don't know how that would work, but they seriously need to deal with that thing. And then untackle their... the Tempest and the Kane cannot... They're faster with their shield and existence, right? The Prophecy and the Dominics can not avoid being tackled, that's what I'm trying to say.
And Madden, what do you think about this Osprey pickup here? I mean, the Scythe wasn't banned. And it looks like, in this case, probably Nameless are going to have to kind of kite away, or if they choose to brawl in, either way, they're going to have to reposition most likely their entire fleet. And that Osprey is Afterburner, so he is going to be quite slow to kind of, chase them down. So if they're charging in after a retreating Dominic's and Prophecy, or if they're running away from a charging Dominic's Prophecy, that Osprey has the potential to be left behind. Are you surprised with that Osprey pickup here? Do you expect to see a Scythe instead, or what's going on here?
Yeah, I think that's just a bad pick. I mean, when you look at these teams, you look at their EHP, and you can tell that obviously Clever Girls has double the EHP across pretty much every single ship, and then obviously Logi goes, triple that case, and they're going in here. I get the XLASB. The Osprey's got great, tank by itself. Maybe it's going to be a bait tank Osprey. But when every other ship on the field is probably going to be able to outrun the Osprey, I'm a little bit concerned. It's going to get caught, and then it's going to sit there while the Prophecy, the Dominics, the Dragoon, and even the Rifter kind of pink away at it. Huge newts coming out from the Dragoon and the Dami. I have no idea how the Osprey is actually going to rep anything after the first 2 minutes of this match. I pray that it will manage to stay away, but if it doesn't, I fear for its longevity and its ability to actually get reps. I hope Nameless has a plan. It's outthought me. They know what they're doing. Those guys are way better at esports than I am, and that they prove the Osprey is the key to winning a kiting comp.
Kiting with an AB Logi, it is a bold strategy. Perhaps they intended to kind of brawl a bit more and then adjusted their comp based on what Clever Girls had picked. We'll never know. Only the captain of the Nameless team can truly know these things. If I'm Clever Girls here, I'm probably going to drop maybe sentries from that Dommy, heavies from that Prophecy, and damage drones from that Dragoon, and just put it all on the Osprey. And that Osprey's got an XLASB; it can tank them, no problem, for 9 charges, and then it will die. The rep bots coming from the Tempest, coming from the Hurricane, will just not be enough. And that Osprey doesn't have that much buffer. It is purely an active tank. Once it runs out of charges, it just dies in a bag of dicks. It is just long gone. It has very little EHP to survive on. You won't get a reload off if those drones stay on it. And really has nothing more to say about that. On the other hand, if that Executor gets caught, he has got an Ancel, an armor Ancel. He's able to rep for a lot longer. Maybe not as quite a high burst DPS, but he is able to just sort of survive on sustained damage longer, will the Clever Girls team remove maybe that Osprey and then probably, I guess, the Hurricane afterwards? I mean, this could be a match that is decided purely based on primary calling. Both FCs are going to come in, they're going to see their opponents, they're going to see the ranges, they're going to have a discussion amongst themselves, and they're going to be thinking right now, well, do we go for this? Do we go for that? And that decision is really going to be what determines the victor of this match. I'm pretty sure we could do this match 5 times in a row and we almost get a different result every time, depending on how it goes. But we don't have 5 times to do it, we only have 1 time to do it. So for this match, we will hand over to the arena, and your commentators for this match are going to be Madden Committee and Yebi Vitar.
Hi, I am Madden here with Jebby for this exciting match of Nameless versus Clever Girls. Can't wait to see the magical Osprey. We got 15 seconds to go. Jebby, you want to tell us about the
User
ranges?
disconnected from your channel.
Well, as we get going here, we're about to start in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. I'm very excited to see we got really big distance to start with.
Oh, of course. Thanks for introducing us, friend. We got Clever.
User in your channel timed out.
And we seem to have DC errors. Welcome to Eve. Someone is DC'd already. Well, we've done it. Dragoon is now in play, taking a lot of damage as we've got some nice distances involved. They've decided that Vigil's right on top of it. The reps are now catching, but it's a stretch. They've decided the Vigil is definitely going to get primary, so they put pre-reps on that. But I'm not seeing any damage coming out of Clever Girls yet. They look like they're going after the Osprey, but they haven't quite gotten yet, as that Dragoon is now in half armor and struggling mightily. Can the Dragoon survive the onslaught?
User
It looks
joined your
like it,
channel.
but it's close. Now we've got our close match with the... Can the Osprey be caught? You'd think it can, but it's moving as fast as possible, which of course for an Osprey is actually pretty slow, and now there's web on it, so it's even slower. But it's doing a pretty good job. Can't believe it's made it this long. As we continue here, the Rifter goes down. Wow, out of nowhere. We lose a Rifter. They just switched to it, and it just died almost instantaneously. That's pretty quick. Wow, look at that. So the Rifter's down. The Osprey is just starting to take damage, but... Oh, well, the Osprey's dead. So 9 charges to go. I think that's probably 1 in there. So let's say it takes another minute for that to go down while the Dragoon is fighting back. Good catch to take out the Rifter. They're probably going to get the Dragoon before the Osprey goes down. And then it's going to be essentially Dami and Prophecy versus Tempest, Hurricane, Tal War, Vigil. Very close.
I'll come in and help you out a little bit. It looks like that Dragoon is coming down into low hull now. They're still applying damage, though, on the Osprey in half armor, which he's not going to really be able to come back very easily. The Dragoon is still clinging on, though. He is in low hull, and they cannot finish him off.
Yeah, you gotta say, I mean, Tyrion, I know you lost that Dragoon just there as he said it, and I blame someone completely. Thank you for jumping in, but you killed the Dragoon. That was cruel.
I was jinxing it. I am sorry. That was all me. You can blame me when you lost it.
Tyrion,
But at the same
you're
time,
the best.
The Osprey, though, goes down, though, on the other side, so there goes their remote reps.
Yeah, and you know, the Osprey went down, and that's great. I mean, that means that Clever Girls, they're going to prove us right. Please don't let the Osprey be the key to all future kiting comps. I don't know how to live in an Eve that way. I don't know what to do. But now this Executor Tyrion, he is very low in armor. He's been tanking for a while. They're definitely not going to catch anything very quickly. Executor's about to die. Prophecy and Dami have a lot of tank, but if they don't catch that Vigil, it's not going to matter with the damn.
Yeah, there goes the X-Quarter. This is not looking good whatsoever for Clever Girls after they lost their only remote reps left. Now it's just the Dami and the Prophecy left, which do have a lot of tank, though. So they're not quite out. They've lost quite a bit, but they're not quite out because those have a lot of tank and a lot of DPS they can dish out of those.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this match could absolutely go either way. The Tempest and the Hurricane have maybe half the tank tops of the Prophecy Dami. You know, they're losing shields, irrelevant. Those newts are irrelevant. The newts on the Tempest are going to start to make an impact, especially in its tank. They've got a newt on that Vigil. If that shuts down its MWD as it slows down significantly, they may be able to just take it out, and it's dead. Obviously, the Tal War is way out there, going to be fine. The Vigil looks to be burning right in. I don't know why it's burning in, but it's got a plan as it burns away. That's probably a smarter call. I like burning away. Definitely continue the burning away Vigil. Not in. Good call. Stalin, what do you think? Where are we going? Is the prophecy going to make it? Are they going to kill the Tempest? Which is
I don't know.
great.
I mean, it looks like that prophecy does. He's getting into half armor right now, but I mean, he's still clinging on. If they eliminate just even like a little bit, if they can still take out some. Yeah, he's dipping into low armor now.
Yeah, I think the prophecy is definitely surviving. The Tempest doesn't have shields. I think he's using mostly his local tank, but they're not getting a lot of damage on top of him. The Dami has not been particularly effective. I think most of its drones are dead, so that's a problem for it. Sucks to be a Dami without drones. The prophecy's about to die. You know, the prophecy, the battle chicken, very, very good at not dying. If your prophecy's dying, that means you're probably going to lose. An unfortunate scenario.
It looks like Liquid Ninja now starting to drop into hull. I mean, it's been a valiant effort, but I don't know. Once he starts to get into hull, I mean, he does still have a good amount of tank, but they're not getting enough DPS on anything really. That Tempest is getting low shield, but it's a little too late, and there goes the prophecy now.
Yeah, I think he's trying to switch drones, do anything he can to get the Tempest out, who is now in armor. Probably going to die, the Tempest is, but I don't know if that's going to be enough for the Dami to survive. Let's see if he can kill the Tempest. That's huge. Overheat the drones, Dami. Overheat your drones.
Oh yeah. Tempest is going now into armor. I mean, I don't know. I think this Tempest might actually go down now. He doesn't look like he's got much left that he can hold out.
Wow, that Dami is disappearing. That is a ton of damage being applied to that Dami right now. But this Tempest, apparently structure tanking is working for him. Oh man, this is extremely close. I gotta say though, I don't know how to live in a world where the Osprey is the choice for kiting. This is scary. I'm scared for my future.
Yeah, it looks like that Dami is starting to get pretty low in the armor, but I don't know.
He hasn't used any of his. He's used one boost, so he's got maybe 8 left, and the Tempest just reloaded, so that's extremely bad for the Dami. I don't know if he's going to be able to burn through a reload cycle. He's got maybe 7 charges left. He's definitely applying more DPS, but I don't know if he's going to be able to survive long enough to kill the Tempest. If he can, then he's got this. He's just got to keep himself alive to take out the Tempest.
Yeah, I mean, like. This is going to be interesting now if he can actually get that Tempest down, because now all of a sudden it's just the Hurricane Tower and Vigil left. A lot against those 3 ships, so if he eliminates the prime DPS really on the other side, Tempest has still managed to get some shield though. He's still...
Yeah, Tempest has got this. It's too much. It's too much. The Hurricane, I think the Hurricane plus the Tempest is key.
Every time that Tempest gets a little bit of shield back, it kills that Dami inside, because it means he's got to get it. And there goes the Dami. A valiant effort, though, at the end there.
Yeah, and with that, the victory goes to Nameless and their magical kiting Osprey, and we can send it back to the booth.
Hey guys, welcome back. That is Clever Girls unfortunately dropping to the infamous kiting Osprey of Nameless. Madden, what happened there? Break it down for me.
Well, I'm still recovering, I'll be honest. So there's a lot of recovery that I'm going through. I think I'm going to need to go to detox. That was scary. So what I think happened is Clever Girls realized there was a kiting Osprey, so they wanted to kill that. But then the Rifter exploded because all the ropes are on the Dragoon. That's understandable. Then they kind of slowly burned the Osprey while they lost the Dragoon. And then their kiting team was caught by a Prophecy and a Dominix and died. Well, no, then they won. They didn't get caught. So that was basically it. So basically, once the Logi was switched, they managed to catch the Execute. They managed to grab him, or not catch him, but the Vigil was effective, and the Vigil never got taken down. See, the recovery, it's just coming back to me. The Vigil basically said, all right, I got this. I'm going to, I got paints on this Execute. Dragoon and Rifter are dead. You're not going to tackle us anymore. And they just slowly pinged away at them. And by the end, you could see the Dami is extremely powerful, almost taking out the Tempest solo when they've got a Hurricane, a Tower War, and a Vigil all on that same side. They never managed to take out any other DPS. The Osprey took way too long to kill. I don't know if they were slow, but that's what took it down.
I mean, is there anything you would have done differently as Clever Girls there to try and secure a win against the terrifying kiting Osprey, or do you think that they performed pretty much as well as you would expect?
I think if they could have killed that Vigil really early on, just, plink away at it, in the same way they lost the Rifter, basically just in an instant, if they'd done the same thing to the Vigil, maybe switch a few drones over there, at least make it work for its life. You make a Vigil terrified, it's not necessarily applying its target painters as well. That would have made a huge impact in this match. And I think that's the one thing they maybe could have done to try and, prevent the horror that is the effective kiting Osprey.
the terrifying kiting Osprey afterburner as well at that. Alexei, I do believe you want to come in and talk a little bit about this previous match, and I think if I'm hearing rumors correctly, you do have, is that a graph for us as well?
There should be a graph coming up later in this break between matches, but I can suggest one thing they could have done that would have really helped, and that is the Dominyx shouldn't have smart bombed off his own drones. That is the reason the Tempest lived at the end of that match, is you saw suddenly those 5 heavy drones from the Dominyx that were chewing through the Tempest as it was in low hull pop to the Dominyx smart bomb.
I mean, there's something to be said for trying to get as much DPS as possible and using your smart bomb if you're on top of someone, but not if you're also using drones as well. Perhaps maybe an oversight there. Not quite as oversighty as, say, flying out the arena, but an oversight nonetheless.
Indeed, the very drone-based nature of that comp actually hurt them a lot, because doing things like trying to blap that Vigil, trying to even get high damage onto the Osprey, it becomes incredibly difficult when you're relying on drones. Those heavy drones, unlike heavy guns, you can't just pin down the Osprey and rely on the fact that that is standing still to give you full application. Your drones are still going to struggle because your drones don't know to sit still and hit the Osprey. They will continue orbiting and they will continue struggling with that low sig. The Osprey can kick out a ton of reps. It can rep itself for an absolute ton. It's not the fastest. It's not necessarily the best at kiting on pure speed, but it's incredibly strong at resisting the initial rush of a brawl, and that's all that it had to do there. The rest of the ships in that composition from Nameless could all function fairly well on their own, either by huge range or local rep and decent range, and that's what they did. They got enough from the time that Osprey bought them to win the rest of the match.
I'm just getting some breaking news coming in from the captain of the Clever Girls team. We'll take that mark off of him right there. He didn't smart bomb his own drones because he was using sentries that were down where he dropped them. He used sentries because the Tempest has a smart bomb. So he was one step ahead of us there, Alexa. He thought this through.
He dropped off someone else's drones then. My apologies to him. I should not have slandered his name in such a way.
Yeah, there you go, Tastin. We apologise. We'll call it even. You fly out the arena once. That's one. We call you out for smart bombing your own drones. That's one on us. So we're back on even. This time, just keep inside the arena, and we're all good. Now we do still have another 8 whole minutes to fill until the next match. But what the heck? Let's look at the picks and bans anyway. So Bio, stick him up on the screen, and let's get Mr. Cylind Decimus in again once more. Tell me a little bit about these picks and bans here. Run me down only points.
Give me 1 second. I'm still bringing it up right now.
That's how fast I was there, just like cutting way ahead of schedule. Even our casters are struggling in the background now, trying to find the picks and bans, getting them up. They are on the screen now for your viewing pleasure. While Cylind clicks on all these tabs. Have you got them now?
Yeah, I got them now. All right, so which one do you want me to break down now?
Break down only points for me.
All right, so only points bringing up their Scalpel and Thrasher. Interestingly enough, banning the Blackbird and Scythe, so it looks like they're trying to get at least one jam from the get-go out of there, along with some shield reps, which is going to kind of force basically Templars to only pick either the Osprey, which is we already know some people dread, or go armor. Then they got the Caracol to kind of eliminate some of the smaller stuff and apply good medium DPS along with the Cyclone. Interestingly enough, between the Caracol and the Cyclone, that's a lot of missiles. They have a lot of options then in terms of taking out smaller ships for the other side, and then the Tempest is their primary DPS.
I mean, Tempest is no poor ship to snub at for being a DPS dealer. It does a huge amount of DPS. In fact, this whole comp seems to be based around how can we get as much DPS as possible, as fast as possible, with that Cyclone, Tempest, Caracol, Thrasher all being pretty high DPS picks for the respective slots, and that little Scalpel just filling in that frigate slot. He's going to come rep his pals. They're going to try and do as much DPS, and he's just going to try and survive while they do that. Alexei, why don't you break down Templates for me here?
Well, Templates have gone for what we're seeing as the new meta. Dragoon, really strong in that destroyer slot. Rifter's great tackle. Execura, default choice. Then Brutix and Hyperion at the top end. Hyperion has come through. It's not been banned out. Dominic's being banned instead of it. We're seeing a lot of this today. Dominic's is being viewed as now more scary than the Hyperion. But Hyperion made it through, Brutix made it through, and that's an incredibly dangerous pair. They will be trying to barrel into the Only Points team and tear it apart. And if they get on top of anything, it's going to be incredibly scary because that Scalpel doesn't have range. That Scalpel has to get in close, and if it tries to get in close to that damage core of the Brutix and Hyperion, it puts itself in a hell of a lot of danger.
Yeah, that Hyperion, if it gets on top of that Tempest, unlike that previous match where we saw the Dominics and the Tempest kind of brawling out, this time the Tempest is going to want to retreat as fast as possible. He's going to turn around and he's going to burn away. Now, the Tempest does have that range advantage over the Hyperion. Both kind of brawly battleships, but that Tempest does hit out a lot further and do a lot more damage than Hyperion. So the longer he can stay away from that Hyperion, the longer he can keep plinking away. They do have that sort of Cyclone ready to provide heavy screening if necessary, but that Brutix is going to provide those skirmish links to make that Hyperion extra speedy and extra slippery.
I was going to say, just looking at this composition, we have all the makings for what could be a very brawly match going on. Exciting to watch.
Yeah, I think Only Points are going to run away until they get caught, and then once you get caught, you have to just turn around instead after the success we just saw. Madden.
Sorry,
Oh, here
you
you
cut
go.
out a little bit there, so I it's going to be hard to see what's going to happen here. I think the Executor, it's a lot of reps that you're going to see on the Template side versus the excitement of the Scalpel, Caracal, Tempest. The one thing I'm a little disappointed about is the fact that they hadn't switched out. I would have loved to see a Raven versus a Tempest here. I think that would have been really powerful damage, probably taking out the Rift or the Dragoon as we've seen previously versus a Tempest kind of consistent DPS.
Yeah, I mean that Raven, as we talked about, just does a huge amount of burst damage. It just vomits damage onto its opponent for about 25 seconds or so, and then has to sort of compose itself for another 35 seconds before repeating in the match. As we've seen so far, I believe the Raven has 100% win rate now in the minor league. I'm not sure if that we should read too much into that, but there you go. Now, Alexei, I'm being told you do have a graph for us now. I'm seeing here it says most drafted ships. Why don't you break this graph down for us?
All right. Well, what we see here is the ships that we're going to be seeing so much of, and we have seen so much of today. The ones that will always be making pick ban. Most of these are seeing pick ban sort of overall draft rates above 70%. The Execura there is sitting at the top with it was about 95% draft rate last I saw. But you see with some of these Execura especially, it's all in picks. Execura, Algos, Prophecy, Dragoon, they're up there ubiquitous within these teams. They're not quite threatening enough to warrant, and they are there. On the other hand, we're also seeing everybody's favourite ships. We're seeing Blackbird, Griffin, and Scorpion all in there as having a huge amount of bans levelled against them because nobody really wants to face jams. They are horrible, they are anti-fun, and they are always going to be that bit unpleasant to try and play against. We're also seeing some interesting picks there. The Hyperion and the Dominics creeping their way up. The Abaddon, which we haven't actually see much play. It saw a lot of play in the Cup, not too much now that we've moved into the League, but the Abaddon and, to a degree, its sister ship, the Apocalypse, picking up a lot of bans because nobody wants to really face those big projecting Amarr battleships, even though we saw them torn down time and again in the Cup. So if those do make it through picks and bans, we're going to see some very interesting matches around them.
Yeah, so I think it's quite interesting to see that the Algos, one of the highest picked ships, 0 bans, probably because most people aren't going to quote-unquote waste a ban on something as small as an Algos, but it just shows that it's such a popular ship, it's just picked so often. Surprisingly, the Executor isn't banned more considering its pick rate. I'm not sure if maybe teams just have a plan to deal with the Executor, or maybe just want to leave it open so they can pick it up themselves and risk the opponent picking it. Is all to play for. Now, this match coming up is going to be between Only Points and Tempest. Interestingly, Tempest actually need to win here to get back on top of the league table. So they started today at number 1 with 7 points, 1 win, 1 dominating win. But they did drop a game earlier on today and have since now been overtaken by Nameless and the Charlatans. So if they lose this today, then they will sink even further through the tables, potentially into the relegation zone of bottom 4 of the league. But if they win this match, they will shoot right back up to being number 1 once again. So this match is quite an important one for them. Also worth noting, this is the second week of the EVNT Minor League. After today, we go to a 1 month break where things such as the Anger Games take place, and teams will be able to go away, practice, and we might see some responses to, for example, the Executor getting picked all the time. The meta might shift as people practice and theorycraft and come up with new ways of doing things. So I'd expect to see when we come back that the meta has shifted a little bit. Maybe we come back and everybody picks the Ravens, and Elise is super happy. Realizes that the Dominix is the new is the new Hyperion, and bans that constantly. We'll never really know, but it is time to see if Tempest can pull out that win and move themselves back to the top of the table. So I will hand you over to the arena for our final match of the day between Tempest and Only Points, with your two commentators, Alexei and Madden.
Hello, and welcome to our last match of the day here with the EVE Minor League. I am standing in for my good friend Yeppy, and I'm joined by Madden, who's going to talk you through these warpins before the match kicks off.
Yeah, some really interesting warpins. You've got the Calcip guys who are bringing off basically 30 to 50. The Hyperion's the closest thing in. Vertex is right behind it. Versus you've got the OP guys, Only Points. They've got their Cyclone and their Tempest right here at 0. The rest of the team off at 30. Some nice diagonal, some nice angles here. So the Hyperion could probably go right in after the Caracal and Thrasher. And of course, that little Scalpel as the match gets started.
And surprisingly, we see the Only Points team, we thought they would be the more kitey, but they're being the more aggressive. They're burning straight in on a Hyperion that is kiting back. The Thrasher, though, of the Only Points team, the first to be taking damage, and it is taking huge chunks of shield while its Scalpel tries to rep it.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting move. They were trying to go down and then behind their obviously designed to be in the middle Tempest and Cyclone, who are now pushing the Hyperion out. It's actually a pretty effective strategy. I like how they played that. I think that was a smart move. Obviously the Thrasher took a little bit of damage, but it was basically ignored, and it gave them a 10-second advantage as they now are throwing their Tempest in, and they're going after the Hyperion, which is about an inch of armor.
But the Tempest was already in low shield. We're seeing so much damage thrown onto it. Tempest, it got more damage on paper, and it's got selectable damage. It can hit really hard in this Hyperion, as we're seeing now, but it's got no tank left, as we're just beginning to lay into the Hyperion's armor.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. Obviously, the Scalpel has no ability to rep it from this range. Scalpel's way out there. It's trying to burn now. Probably a little bit too little too late as it's going to try and do its best. But the Tempest can only tank so much. And the Hyperion versus a Tempest, as we saw in the last couple of matches here, that is not a good matchup for the Tempest. Tempest is definitely going to die here, even as the Scalpel does everything in its power. I think Tempest goes down, and for Only Points, that is a devastating, devastating loss. Not quite dead yet, so I'm going to keep talking until it dies, prove myself right. Oh dear, it's not dead yet.
You've got to question the choice to burn that Tempest right in, but it might be paying off. That Hyperion is getting incredibly low. Right on top of it, that Tempest is doing over 1,000 DPS if it wants to, straight into the resist holes of that Hyperion that only has a rep bonus and is now pushing into Hull. If they could get this Hyperion, it would be huge for the Only Points team, but their Tempest is barely hanging on, and it's not. It's gone.
Yeah, that Scalpel, Yash Pegika, I really did not give you enough credit. You burned in and you kept that Tempest line for a long time. My one regret is I think you should have taken the entire team in if you're going to go with that, because the first maybe 60 seconds right on through its primary ability to shield, the Scalpel was nowhere nearby, and that was critical. The reason the Hyperion was able to survive, the reason the Tempest died as quickly as it did, is because the Scalpel was off with the Thrasher and the Caracal playing kind of a secondary game, which I liked initially, but as you said, the Tempest Cyclone going in by themselves clearly not an effective strategy against Brick Tank Galente team. So that was it looked cool, but in practice it wasn't a good call.
Indeed, relying on the XLASB, it's not going to be enough, but they might still make the most of it. That Hyperion isn't very low. They might be trading a Thrasher for it, that Thrasher going incredibly low again, but if they can push that Hyperion through Hull, it would be worth it for them right now. They need to get momentum back in this game. They've just lost their Thrasher, but taking the Hyperion down gives them a shot.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the Execure reps by themselves would actually be enough to keep the Hyperion alive. I know it was cycling through its answer layer, but in practice, I actually think it was basically bait tanking at that point, or just not trying very hard. The Cyclone doesn't have a lot of damage. The Caracal, even if it's not on reload, which I think it now is, you saw earlier when it was trying to do its best, where the Hyperion took a little bit of damage, but the tank and structure of any Galente ship, obviously including Hyperion, is just too much for this moment in time. Because you feel for the Only Points guys. Third match, 1 day, 3 losses. That's a lot to take in.
Indeed, and they've just lost their Cyclone there. You see, once it's run out of its charges in the XLASB, it can't be held up by the Scalpel. Scalpel's not got the reps. Hyperion got through to its reload. Ancillaries brought all of its armor back. What we see here is a very good call from Only Points. They're going for that Dragoon, which might not be able to be held up in quite the same way. It's got a decent sig, they can apply decently to it. They might be able to get it and try and avoid the domination loss. Try and take points off Templis, even if they can't win points themselves.
Would you have not picked the Rifter versus the Dragoon in this scenario? I feel like they only get one shot with the Caracal. I feel like I would have taken the Rifter. But, hey, if it works, more power to them.
I think you can hit the Dragoon better, is the big part of this.
And Rapid Lights?
And
no.
If you could hit that Dragoon, the Dragoon is the bigger threat to your Scalpel, because we see all the newts, all the loss, everything that's making that Scalpel's life hell is coming from that Dragoon right now. But it's not relevant. That Caracal, it was all in the shields, and it's all gone now. Caracal is gone. Scalpel has not got long to live, as it gets blapped almost instantly as it leaves shield. And we see Templis secure a hard-earned victory, a domination victory, putting themselves right back on top of the table at the end of week 2. And with that, we are going to hand back to the studio.
Hey guys, welcome back there. Templis Calcif showing once again why they are such a dominating team and taking that dominating victory here over Only Points to jump right back up to where they started the day at the top of the leaderboard. I'm going to refresh my live stats table and see if they have appeared in the league tables. 1 second. Here we go.
I can tell you now they haven't yet.
Okay, anyway, I was waiting. I had so much faith in Statsman Alexei that it would just be done. Despite the fact that he was commentating in the last match, I just assumed that while he was commentating, he had one hand sort of on a second keyboard, typing away, doing all the stats. But alas, my faith has been broken. But if I'm reading the previous to this match tables correctly, then I'm pretty sure I can work out using my brain the standings. So in first place will be Templis, followed by Nameless, then the Charlatans rounding up our top 3 slots. In fourth is UNOT. Those 4 make up our promotion teams, so if they stay in those positions, if the league was to end today, they would go up to the Major League for the next season. Going into 5th place, we have Diametrically Opposed, Clever Girls, Only Points, and See Ya Kids. Interesting to note, both Only Points and See Ya Kids ending today. Now, still 0 wins, so they are both sitting, unfortunately, at 0 league points, whereas from 6th to 2nd is only 1 point difference. So we have the Charlatans, Templis, Charlatans, Nameless, UNOT, and Diamond Opposed all on 7 points, and the Clever Girls on 6 points. So this league is still all to play for. If you want to watch the Major Leagues, we are back tomorrow for some more exciting matches between all the different Major League teams. And then we're back in 1 month as well. Just check Twitter, check all of the Plus 10 Gaming respective channels, and you'll see exactly when we're back. But to round out today, let's just have a quick thank you to all the people who have joined us and who make this possible. That includes the much very helpful, recently departed from CCP Not His Life, CCP Logibro, who has just done an absolute incredible job over the last couple of years, facilitating all the different tournaments that we do here at Plus 10 Gaming. He made loads of things possible. He put together Thunderdome. He has just worked tirelessly on his own time to everything you see. Basically, he's one of the key people that made it all possible. So a big thank you to him. CCP Fozzie as well, helping out as well with a lot of that stuff. To just everything we do, we kind of have to say thank you to them. For the people here today, we've got Alexei, our stats man, Elise, the man with the button that kills everybody. We've got Terendian Biohazard, he is the guy doing all the fancy shots. We have Jebby, who has been a wonderful commentator, providing some great colour commentary. Madden as well, and of course Sutherland Decimus, who joined us today. Mr. Bayart J and Nash Cadaver, of course, for creating and running all this in the background. I have been Ithaca Hawk. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in 1 month.